Action!
So, hey guys, I'm here today with cinematographer David Wright. I've known David for about 10, 15 years or so, and I've seen his career really develop over the last few years. He's doing really, really high-end work. He's a high-end international cinematographer, and he has quite a range of work, from music videos, commercials, short films, award-winning short films. He's just on his first feature film. So we're here today. We're going to discuss a variety of topics: his career, working with crew, lenses, lighting. We're going to break down some of his work live. We've got a monitor here, so we can actually break down his work, and he's going to, tell us all about his career. So, should we tell the audience we actually worked together years ago?
Yeah. Well, I would think you're the closest thing I had to a mentor.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
genuinely.
Wow.
Because
That's a compliment.
I don't really feel like there weren't a lot of people looking to mentor me, I think I would say. You know, I had a very weird sort of kind of fractured career until I became a DIT. But I think
Did
when I
you
started
go to
working
film
with you,
school initially?
I went to university and
Right.
studied film.
Yeah.
And
And when did you graduate?
That would have been 2004, 5,
Right.
something like that. And yeah, like I knew I wanted to be a DP, but you know, it was a bit of a schlep to get there. But yeah, when I started working with you, you know, it was great. You were just very, you knew that I wanted to be a DP, and you didn't throw me out straight away. You know, which is always, I think, a really good mark of just character. You know, for a DP. There's a lot of DPs who are very precious about it, or have been anyway. And yeah, just like when I started to do lighting, you were like, you can ask me anything. And I remember I had one commercial, my first kind of commercial, where it felt a bit pressure, and I had to do a green screen. And I was like, oh, I've got this, you know, I think I was DITing on set with you. I was like, oh, I've got this Sky commercial, green screen stuff or whatever. And you gave me all the advice. You were like, oh, make sure you have a certain distance from the green screen at the background, you know, skirt everything off, get as much distance as you can or whatever. So I was at Shepperton, and I did all this stuff, and it looked great. And I think you also gave me some advice about lighting the hair of the model who was in it, you know, like for dark hair and light hair, and whether softer or harder light was better, and how could the hair artist and all that kind of thing. So, you know, there was a couple of times when I had stuff, and you know,
That's
so yeah, you know.
Well, yeah, I remember you also used to give me advice, because I remember I had a few lunches with you, and I used to make your eyes glaze over, because I used to ask you the same questions over and over again, because I was still trying to
My eyes glaze over now thinking about that stuff.
I was trying to work out the technical side of the digital thing.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to you, so tell me again, what's the difference between resolution and something with red and something with an excellent?
Yeah.
And I remember you explaining it to me every time you explained it to me, and I didn't have the capacity to keep it in my head.
I mean, you inspired me to learn more about that stuff, because I remember thinking, oh, Christ, Ian wants to know this stuff in a lot of detail. And like, you were one of the only DPs who actually really was that interested. A lot of people didn't really care. They were just like, if it was a problem, they cared. Otherwise, don't talk to me. Especially some DPs. Like I used to work with, you know, very big name DPs. You would I remember there was one DP I worked with who shoots a lot of like big Marvel films and things right now, and I think I had 5 conversations with him over 4 years as a DIT, and I must have worked on like 30 jobs with him or something.
Didn't you find that because there's two kind of, on commercials of DIT, basically you could say at a low level it's just data wrangling, right? But on a feature film, wouldn't a DIT be showing graded footage, LUTs, getting into the LUTs and the whole kind of film? I mean, wouldn't that be a more creative role?
Absolutely, that's how it works nowadays. I mean, I think that particular DP isn't that interested in that side of it. I think they like to really establish everything, and when they're shooting, they just, I mean, I couldn't say how they work now, obviously, but I just, from what I heard quite a few years ago, is that they just didn't like DIT. They wanted the focus puller to know how to run the whole camera, but you need the quality control aspect. So I think they probably would have had like a data lab.
It's always been a bit of a weird role, isn't it, DIT? It's not had a perfect fit into the
I mean, it's kind of established itself now. It's basically a digital lab kind of thing. It's your kind of like your initial colorist and
Do you make use of that on set now? Do you think, having been a DIT in the past, do you think that informs the way you treat a DIT on set now and what you ask of them?
Yes and no. I think it depends on the budget. I think I'm comfortable in knowing what's achievable in post, so I don't need to have a DIT, tweaking stuff or whatever. In fact, I'd just say, if you can make it look a bit better and then send me some stills, then I'm happy to do that. And I do it all off the monitor.
Make it look better and send me the results.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a gaffer. I'm like, okay, so I want to light it like this, but just make it look good.
Yeah.
I think people should be able to just use their own intuition.
So, like, inclusive. You're quite inclusive of
I think so. Yeah, because if you've got a load of people and they're all really good at what they do, why would you ever want to creatively hamstring them or whatever?
Yeah.
You want to be able to sort of lean on them to bring even more. I think really great DPs understand that. I mean, they have a clear vision and they know what they want to achieve, and they're very, they understand what's important and stuff. And they're not led by everybody else, but they do allow a certain, creative freedom to some people, because that's how you get the best out of people as well, and that's how you make something look even better.
Yeah.
And, I think that's how we are with directors. I think
I was about to ask you that, because that makes me think about our relationship with the director and how I know when they're getting the best from me and when they're not getting the best from me. And I think it is down to that. If they kind of give me a bit of room to move, then they get way more from me than if they don't do that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think when directors get the best out of me is when I'm under a little bit of pressure. Some directors, when you work with them, they almost trust you too much, and I think actually it's nice to have a little bit of just a little bit of tension.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I mean, you come across as a really nice guy, and I remember I can imagine you being way more patient with people than I was. And when I look back at my career, and I think one of the things that took me longer to learn was set etiquette and how to deal with directors in particular, and how to sort of know when to step forward and support them and know when to step back and to give them room, and knowing how to negotiate with them in terms of if you come up against something, you feel that they're going down the wrong path, but you don't want to sort of mandate to them. Do you have techniques that you use for that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the way I always approach those conversations is, I think it's a bit of a cliche, but always with positivity, never like necessarily negative stuff. If somebody says something, if I think very strongly about something, I'll raise it with the director. But if we're discussing something and they want my opinion, but you don't want to put your foot wrong or whatever, I tend to just start with, well, I kind of like that, but also maybe if we did this or we did that, like very kind of
sort of weave it into that.
Yeah, I think you have to weave it in, definitely, and you have to kind of be very emotionally, kind of intelligent.
Yeah, right. That's the thing.
And you have to be able to sense. I mean, I'm an introvert at heart, but you have to be able to put on a few different faces, and and also, like, I think one of the things as well that I've learned is to stop, breathe. When everything is going crazy and there's a huge problem, like, or something massively bad happens, the first thing you've got to do is just stop and breathe for a second, because
that's good advice.
You need to have just, even if it's just through 2 seconds or 3 seconds, just to appraise what's going on and to think. And then when you do that, you get a bit more clarity and the ideas come on how to resolve the issues, So
you struck me as always having quite a calm center when I work with you, and I can imagine, I haven't been on set with you as a DOP, but I can imagine that translates well for you as a DOP. I mean, if you do get stressed out, you certainly didn't show it when I work with you.
Yeah,
I don't think I had that. It took me a while to learn to do that.
I definitely never had that as a DP. I think when you met me, I was doing a job that was, I mean, like, I think the role of the DIT can be quite stressful, depending on, but it's more a personality thing, who the people are you're working with. But as a DP, I think, especially when I started, I was probably a bit arrogant. I was a bit full of myself, but it was almost like a protective thing.
A cover.
Yeah, because, you have to, and you have to shed that almost. You have to kind of go, okay, I just look like a bit of an a-hole, you know. You know, people seem to want to keep working with you.
To have the self-awareness to know that at the beginning that's part of the process of curing it in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
the real arseholes are the ones that don't even think they're arseholes, right? So to know you're behaving badly, that's actually part of
Well, it used to be a thing where, I remember when it was a thing where, oh, they're a personality. Oh, that's just what they're like. And they'd be just horrible.
It would be accepted, wouldn't it?
Right?
In the industry, yeah.
And it's like that they're an artist.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I think, you know, like getting very philosophical about getting into art and angst and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I think nowadays you need to know, it's just good for people to know where you're standing with someone and how to work collaboratively together to achieve. You're all there to do a job and you're all there to get to a certain goal. And the only times I feel that I get slightly more emotional or frustrated and whatever is when I almost care a bit too much about it, you know, like, and I think you have to learn to kind of control yourself and step back, because you can never make anything perfect anyway.
Yeah, so, it's a big point for me, is because I have two approaches to a job. It's a readable job or it's not a readable job. And when it's a readable job, I've noticed over the years I'm twice as much emotional energy goes into it,
right?
And I'm exhausted by the end of it. Because every shot, I hold on to every shot. I remember once I worked with he's quite a famous Steadicam. I can't remember his name now, but he basically says to me, "You don't let any."
Not Roger.
No, Roger. No. You don't let anything go past without it being right. You know, like there's a sort of high level of
yeah.
And I was kind of like, but that's not necessarily good things. That's not appropriate for everything. And like as you say, it all can't be controlled anyway. So to have a touch,
you have to. I think you have to just be philosophical, almost on every shot. Sometimes, you know, especially. I mean, for me, it's kind of interesting because, you know, you go, is it a reelable job or is it not a reelable job? And I was talking to a new sort of DP, giving out advice and stuff, and they were sort of, one of the things we kind of were sort of connecting over was that, how do you keep on bringing the enthusiasm? Because I said, you know, one of the things I learned from a DP I used to work for was that your enthusiasm for the job is one of the biggest selling points you can have, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to keep the enthusiasm up, especially if you're just shooting some horrible, you know, product that nobody cares about or nobody really seems to be bothered about. He was like, yeah, how do you get over that? And I said, you don't get over that. You just have to keep on reminding yourself to be passionate and to try and bring your best and try to bring the same passion that you have for other things into this as well, but maybe in different ways, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking about your career and I was, you know, I've been studying your work. We'll get into your breaking down some of this in a minute, I hope. But and I was just thinking, one of the things that really struck me, were the two things that I'd like to say is to watch you grow from kind of technician, because you were, I mean, I know you always had aspirations to be a DOP, but when I first met you, you were kind of a technician.
Oh, yeah.
And you're very technical, very kind of aware technically. But to watch you grow into an artist, which is the way I view you now, certainly with your later body of work, you can really see that growth, that awareness of light. You had the ability to create atmosphere, knowing when to move, you know, that's sort of just the cinematography tools, how you've kind of, you know, like when you get good, the tools become invisible and it's just the voice that sort of starts to move, you know, just to notice. Well, I've really noticed that with your work, particularly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so that's one of the things. And the other thing I want to say, the other compliment I have for you is that your range, right? The fact that you have such a range of, you know, because I know you've done, you know, you started in music videos, didn't you? And then you've always done a bit of narrative, a bit of short films. It's funny to see that ones that, you know, doing some of the prep for this, that some of the films that are actually got the most awards were actually shot a while back, you know, and they kind of resurfaced. One, you know, so you've got some music videos and short films, but I think it's the certainly the high-end commercials where I can see your sophistication of lighting and the way, bringing the whole kind of thing together, all of the post-production required to sort of scale you can work to, you know, like. I remember speaking to a director many years ago who said that the thing about, I was talking about Alex Melman, the DOP Alex Melman, and you were saying the thing I like about him is he can work to any scale. And I thought that's a really interesting, being able to do a tabletop one day and then to light a stadium the next, and for that not to bother you.
I feel that's definitely something that is a facet of perhaps of my career.
Yeah, you know, it's evident on your website. Because
Yeah.
you know, going from the fashion films where it's a 16mm camera running around with available lights,
Yeah.
to some of the bigger commercials you've done.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's, and I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so attractive for someone because, you know, the problem I've got, I feel that I haven't been as malleable as you have in your career, and so either I get perceived as like being maybe too old in a tooth or too kind of established as a DOP to want to do a small fashion film or a music video, which I'm desperate to do.
Yeah.
So that's the cool stuff, right? That's the stuff where you kind of make new
Absolutely.
relationships.
I mean, people pigeonhole so
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm pigeonholed per se, but also the grass is always greener. I think there's always other projects you'd like to be doing, or the careers you'd potentially like to be living, or whatever. But I think you have to just focus on your own path.
Well, seeing from it, you know, from my perspective, looking into your career, I think you've got a lot right, actually.
Right. Okay.
Well,
that's good.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you got, I think the fact did you start with music videos and then go on to the fashion films, or were they kind of in tandem?
It was kind of, well, I wouldn't even say fashion films necessarily were a huge part of my, you know, I do some of those, but really it was kind of just bog standard commercials and music videos, you know. I think I was kind of a little lucky that I kind of hit the ground running. I was with Wizzo, the diary service, and they got me a couple, like I would all the sort of focus pullers who wanted to be DPs, or me like a DIT who wanted to be a DP, would have their reels sent in, and you know, for any kind of project that wasn't really good enough or whatever for the main DPs, they'd pass on the list of, like, you know,
So like an emerging talent list.
yeah, kind of thing, before they had these emerging talent lists that they have now. And I just remember I kept winning a few of those, and that really helped. And there were commercials here and there and stuff. But yeah, so I kind of ended up, I was quite lucky, but then I'd spent so much time in commercials already, you know, doing DIT and camera assisting and things like that.
Did you learn a lot from your experience of being on a film set and watching other DOPs a lot?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, I've said this before, but I think, you know, I was a trainee, then I did some loading on film, and then I did a bit of focus pulling. But after a few years, you know, it was the banks collapsed in 2008, and I didn't really work for 6 months, and then the Red One came out, and then that was my opportunity, really, and I kind of sort of fell into DIT. But once that happened, I ended up working with, you know, I was kind of like so busy all of a sudden, and working with so many different DPs, because the production companies and the producers were hiring me, not the cameramen or women. And basically, you know, that meant that I was able to, you know, 1 week watch how somebody would light, one particular cinematographer would light a soft setup with soft filters and hard lights, and then the next week watch another DP do something similar, but with soft lighting and sharper lenses. You know, and just kind of and see the differences in effect. And I'd have all the rushes at the computer, so it was, and I
perfect learning.
After a while grade them. You know, to start with, it was just a laptop, and I remember I was working with Ray Coates a lot, and I was doing DIT and loading 35mm on some of his commercials at the start, and I turned up for a job, and it was on location, and he was like, I was like, oh, did you bring your laptop? And he was like, no, you were supposed to bring your laptop. And I was like, shit, I don't have a laptop. So I had to go to Curry's and buy one, and that was it. That was the start of my career as a DIT, you know. And I was like, well, at least if I think I was making £100 a day or something off the laptop, and it was like a $2,000 laptop. I was like, well, at least I've got 20% off it or whatever. And I didn't realize it was going to continue to keep on, you know, to kind of grow from there.
Yeah, it's funny how that started by not having a laptop. If that's your career.
Literally the night before the shoot, buying the laptop, one off the shelf. You're not even expect out one. And then after a while, getting another monitor. Like, it's so funny because you know, as DIT, you have to learn all this stuff, right? And then now it's like, I'm like, oh, it's broken again. I can't fix it anymore. It's totally fallen out.
So that part of your brain has just been shut down completely.
Not shut down, but you know, it's like sometimes it's a headache. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, does it bring all the old adrenaline back from when you were on set?
I don't even. Yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't. No, I mean, sometimes that was. I mean, I remember. I think it was with you. I did a job. I can't remember. I thought I'd lost the whole roll of film. That was in very early days.
That quiet
on digital. Yeah, of course I did. Yeah, that was horrendous, and I freaked out so badly, but I kept it all to myself. And then half an hour freaking out, and all I'd done was just backed up the same roll to the same hard drive, but we were for some reason flipping hard drives for each person that we were filming. But I remember
So it's like an internal
same one, yeah.
down,
And like that was when I was like, okay, really need to apply the loading perspective and have everything properly figured out, because this is like crazy.
I did that on one of my. I was a loader for not that long actually, because but I actually exposed a roll of film, and we had to reshoot for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And the thing that made it so painful for me is everyone was so nice to me.
Oh,
And
right.
it's just like, just, you know, I would want the DOPs to run across the room and punch me in the face or something. And that's how I would have been much happier with that.
Well, I did it once on 16mm. We had 7 cameras all time synced, and it was Justin. I've forgotten his name now.
Timberlake.
No. The technician who time synced all these 16mm cameras together.
Right.
And it was with the DP who is at your agency, who could be quite shouty at people if they did something wrong. And I flashed a mag, because every time we had to reload, it was 7 mags, and it was like a big discussion with the producer, with the director, and the DP, and everybody. Like, are we going to reload to do this or whatever? And I remember sitting and thinking, I was, oh shit. Oh no, what happened was it was the 416, and I turned the mag over, and because it's a weird sliding clip rather than the nice SR3 where it just locks in. Yeah. I pulled the tape off, and it must have like pulled it, and I turned it over, and the lid fell down like that, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And the other loader, because it was just me and one of the second AC, he was like, he was more experienced. He was like, don't tell anybody. And I was like, I can't, I got to tell the DP. I mean, it's all fine.
I love the fact that the experienced loader is the one that don't say a fucking word.
He was like, you're in a dark corner of the studio. This is why I told you to face the back, because I had my bag facing towards the light, and he was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, oh yeah. So turned it all around and faced it the way, and he was like, that's why I told you to do that. I was like, oh yeah. But I just remember, like, it was...
Yeah, those emotions. You only go through them once in your career. You're lucky, right? Because it's pretty career defining.
That was like the only time I and it wasn't really flashed, and it was fine because it was in a bag, and there was no light to get through there at all. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's one of the early roles as on a camera department, is you're thrown into loading without really. When I think back, I was so green. I didn't know what I was doing. And yet you had to probably the most responsible job on the film set.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? Yeah, really. I mean, they won't even let you touch a mag as a trainee on a film. Like, they wouldn't let you anywhere near it. They'd let you carry the box with the mags in.
Yeah, yeah. You have to earn your right to getting close to the changing tent. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So, what I'd like to do is go through some of your work and break it down. Because the set notes thing is kind of like a show and tell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can go through. I mean, I've got a list of the work that I think we might want to. We can
talk about anything. I'm all good. So I was listening to the one on the way in. Actually, you're the last one.
Yeah,
and I thought it was really interesting.
With Rodney Shutters.
Yeah. All the one thing that really piqued my interest was all the mirrors, because that's still there was mirror. So I went into that film with just like maxi brutes and mirrors and and LEDs and Asteras and Nicks and things like that. So all sorts of different stuff.
Okay.
And the gaffer hated it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, he hated me as well.
Well, so what? This is the feature.
Yeah.
Right. How do you get? You see, that's the thing. Before we get into this, with gaffers, because do you still work with Chris?
Chris, I tried to. I mean, I haven't worked with him for ages.
Is he still super busy?
He's always busy.
Yeah.
Chris is like super busy. I mean, like sometimes I don't even put his name in production. Like, oh, the director worked with this guy last time, and it's Chris. I'm like, yeah. He was like my first on my list to kind of put in.
Yeah.
I mean, with Chris, it's so easy. I find it so easy.
He lights, man. He's like, he's got the eye of a DOP. Yeah.
He should be a DOP.
Yeah.
But I think he's just smart enough to.
Yeah, right. He doesn't want the competition. Yeah. He. I would say out of all the gaffers I work with, he's the one that I think lit things the most completely without any of my.
Oh yeah.
And he could have just
and he looks at the monitor and he knows. I mean, like I said to him, I said, I've got this pack shot one time, and I was like, are you good with beer? And he was like, David, I've lit 500 beer commercials. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
just tell me what I need to bring there.
Yeah, he knows light in a way that all gaffers should kind of know light to a degree. Some of them are more into the fixtures, and they just know how to place a fixture and power it up,
yeah,
which you could argue is kind of their job.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that see light and know how to shape light in a way that they're looking at it like with the eyes of a DOP, that's Chris Downing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And those gaffers are incredible. You know,
Mm.
if you can get someone like that. Well, I try and encourage, especially the younger gaffers, to be like that, to think about the light and be more, because you can see that they're really interested in to be like that, but they just haven't been able to exercise that muscle so much.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have those discussions with them, rather than just telling them where to put. Like a lot of people are just telling gaffers where to put lights and stuff, which I think.
Can I talk a little bit before we get into breaking work down? Can I talk a bit about your journey with light? So when you first started doing low budget music videos, you're mainly using available light, were you? Or
no, I think like when I first started doing music, the very first few that I used, I was really like into just using lights. Like I think because I spent so much time on set.
Certain fixtures that you were excited by, or
yeah, I did. I mean, like, you know, I worked with DPs who'd use things like mole beams, but the good thing was, or like, you know, sort of maxis or whatever, and I'd see them gelling them for morning light and doing all these really interesting things, and I was really took all that in, but also kind of became friendly with a lot of the gaffers, and you know, people like Sean White, who gaffers for me now. You know, I would work with him a lot, and he would say, "Oh, you see what so and so's doing there? He's got a gem ball for this like big commercial or something. He's just got a gem ball there, and we switched everything else off, and we've just put some neg here or whatever." And I'd be like, "Oh, right, yeah, okay." Like, and if you can develop that relationship, then you become before you even start lighting, you're kind of interested to use it all and to play with it.
Would you say you learned a lot from your gaffers then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would like learn a lot from the gaffers, and then also being able to encourage to look at how they're doing stuff with the lights. And then also I would just sit with a book in the DIT van sometimes, which was just the set lighting technician's handbook. Yeah, and just read all the different fixtures and lamps and things that were available at that point. I mean, you know, and just kind of like book up on it a bit. But then when I started, I kind of was really interested in lighting, because I was kind of like, well, I know the camera stuff, I know the lenses, I know the film, I know everything that stuff's going to do. I'm more interested in lighting, you know, and practicing all that stuff. And my lighting was awful, though, you know.
I mean, I'd say it takes a good 10 years to be really good at lighting.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours of becoming experts at something.
Yeah.
It's 10,000 hours of work, which is kind of like 10 years, and then kind of I'd say that for me that was certainly. Yeah. I often fantasize about going back to some of the opportunities I had when I started my career, which were I worked with some really good directors back then, and it was really big opportunities. And want to relight in my mind. I want to relight all of those scenes. Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, like I think back to some of the stuff that I was really proud of. You know, I always say to like you sort of newer DPs, I'm like, I said, all the stuff that you're shooting now, you probably love so much of it, and you'll stick it all in a reel or whatever. But in 5 years' time, you won't want to show anybody anything of that stuff. But that's okay, you know. That's how we all feel, and we progress and we change, and it becomes more maybe not more sophisticated lighting, but our kind of
awareness of light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did a course with Billy Williams at the National Film. So I did. I went to the London College of Printing. And I didn't have a cinematography shooter there for the whole 3 years I was there. So I didn't learn anything about cinematography.
Yeah.
So after that, I felt I needed to learn. So I did a few short courses at the NFTS, and Billy Williams did this lighting course, which really was, for me, quite life-changing. Because what I was aware of being in a room with a proper cinematographer, like someone of his stature, was how he just saw light. Yeah. And I remember I used to kind of annoyed him at first because I used to ask him so many questions, and I was sitting next to this girl, and at one point we went into doing a little workshop kind of setup, and then I started doing something, and that's the first time Billy Williams didn't see me as an annoyance. He saw me as someone who was into light the way he was.
Right, yeah.
And I remember I got a little note from the girl next to me, went, "I think Billy likes you now." Do you know what I mean? And
oh, really?
A bit of paper. And I remember that for me, that was such a huge kind of like emotional kind of victory, because I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what cinematography does,
over that,
and that's what I'm capable of doing myself. Yeah, and that's for me. That was like, oh, so the journey of cinematography, in a way, is a journey. The way I see it, anyway, it's a journey of the sensitivity you have towards atmosphere.
Absolutely, and it's so funny because, like, I think lighting is such an integral. I mean, it's almost one of the most important. I mean, you can have any kind of lenses, you can almost have any kind of camera, but if you know how to light, then you can turn all of those formats into something better, or you can get the best out of it all, you know. And you can even like play around with it and do really. I mean, I remember when I was 19, I was at university and we had a free project, and I could go do I could choose whatever I wanted to study. I just made up. I was like, the pre-production process for a cinematographer, and so the lecturer managed to speak to a friend of theirs, who then managed to get me an interview with the head of the BSc at that time, which was Mike Southern. And I came down to London. I was late because it was terrible. I've never been on the tube before. And he was like, at the end, I was like, I'm so sorry I was late. And he was like, the trains were delayed and everything. And then I went the wrong way on the tube. And he was like, oh, I thought you were in London and you just came the wrong way. And you're an idiot. But anyway, one of the things I always remember him saying, in fact, I remember a lot of really, I mean, we spent 3 hours in his garden sort of drinking tea and in the sunshine and talking about cinematography, which was like, for me at the time, was one of the best experiences of my life, because I'd never been able to sit down with someone who was literally doing the job that I dreamed about since I was 15. And I got to ask them all sorts of questions and just sit and listen to them and drink it all up. But I remember he'd said to me, you know, one of the most important things is light, and it's how you see light. And I remember him telling me an anecdote of being just, you know, when I go in for meetings into central London, I'll sit on a tube and I'll look at how the light changes on the floor and hits people's faces and bounces around, and I'll make mental notes or make notes and perhaps use that in the next project that I'm doing. And that really, and I remember after that point, that's when I started to go, okay, and start really looking at light and thinking about it a bit more than I'd ever had done it before then. Because before then, all you're thinking about is 3-point lighting and how that's supposed to be not very good, you know?
Well, 3-point lighting was really inherited from stills, because it makes sense in stills. Because stills is a static subject, and you can situate the lights at 3 points, and it has a certain, I think it has a certain sense of the geometry of the face. So I think that's where it originated from. With motion picture, it makes no sense because people are moving, right? Yeah. So what's the 3-point and 1-point part of the room is no longer in another part.
You have to stand everybody still.
Yeah. Like so it's a completely different way of thinking. So in a way, the way lighting is taught in cinematography is kind of like, it's inherited from stills, and it's not really correct. So I think it's correct for the portraits. To understand the portrait lighting, I think it's quite important to the human face and how that lights in the most three-dimensional way. Is I think quite a kind of, I think it's a cornerstone of cinematography. But then you're dealing with a room which has a flow of light, people moving through that room, the camera moving in relationship to those people, and then suddenly it's like, where's the 3 points come into this? You know?
Yeah, there's no use for that anywhere, really. I think kind of technically speaking, you could do everything with just one light, you know? I mean, I did a whole music video in Morocco, which is on my reel, and I did that with one of those little RGB aperture.
Oh, right, we'll have to look at that.
Yeah. I did the whole film with that.
Well, should we have a quick look at that now?
Actually? Yeah, we can look at it. I went to Morocco. In fact, the director of Kindling was the producer on that. So and also his girlfriend came along to help out, and she was the director of that.
Oh, wow.
So we spent a week in Morocco, in Marrakesh, this one here, and I did the whole thing just with one LED, basically a little brick light, and just bounce and neg, and I mean I can talk you through it a bit.
Yes. Okay. So the first.
I was really proud of this one, actually. So
when did you shoot this one?
This was just before the pandemic. I think this might have been the last job before the pandemic. But basically it was me and a focus puller and the director and a couple of other people, you know, the actress, and
this is all shot in what did you say, Morocco?
Morocco, and then this stuff in the bedroom is in London,
right?
At the offices.
So talk us through a little bit about your approach to this.
So basically it was just like
gun and run type.
Yeah, so it was just like all run and gun. I wanted to shoot it full frame on a Mini, but in RAW. Yeah, and then print it to film. So that's what we did. We printed this to film.
Right. And why did you make that decision?
Because we wanted to kind of have an organic feel to it. The director was really interested in printing to film anyway. Because
why not shoot it on film?
Too expensive.
Right.
Yeah, and like we shot so much footage on this, you know. I think it nearly probably killed the producer because he was backing everything up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I did it all raw as well. So
you said that you lit the whole thing with just a tiny little LED.
yeah, and just bounce and neg whatever I had.
So that was just used for a little feel light when you
Yeah.
get a bit of life in the eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah, just a little bit of life in the eyes, or just to kind of work contrast a little bit. I mean, this seems a bit more contrasty and losing a lot more in the highlights than when I look at it normally. But yeah, and we shot it all just as it is really, and just trying to find good frames and
so the process of printing it back to film. Did you get a pre-grade done and then print it back? So you ironed it all out, and then the limitations of the film stock. Did you print on 35mm 16?
35. 35. And actually
35mm frames, so they can zoom into it, can't they?
Yeah. We used that's a good question. Yeah, we just scanned it, the whole thing on. I don't know how much they scaled it down, but I imagine it would be.
So if you want a grain growth, you zoom in a bit.
I mean, really what it's doing is it's baking in a bit of a look, kind of. But the colorist would pre-grade the footage before it's sent to kind of minimize, so that then they almost kind of retain as much information, not lose everything in the highlights and the blacks or whatever, and bring that, and then have a bit more control of that.
And because I've recently gone through this process with the Ray video. We do that? Yeah, because Osis wanted to shoot on film. Yeah. And I was like, we're shooting on a bus, a lot of night sequences. I would recommend, I think I even said to him, look, people, film DOPs that really love film, there is an argument for using digital at night, because you can get. So I was thinking, why don't we shoot digitally and then print on film, which is what we ended up doing. But what would you say on this subject? What would you say the main difference is? Because you shot a fair bit on film, haven't you? What would you say the main difference between, apart from the grain structure, and obviously a 16mm, you get a deeper depth of fit, you get a deeper focus. But what would you say the main difference between film, not regardless of the grain structure, between film and digital?
Well, okay. I mean, I think the grain does play a part in the sense that it certainly softens the image a bit and it brings that quality to it. But
can you replicate that with digital effects?
Maybe if you use a
film grain over the top.
Yeah. But then I think you can. I don't know. There's something about having it baked in. You can't change it. Yeah. That makes people have to commit to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done two. I've done a few printing to film from digital, but the process can be changed. You can either do it to print stock, or you can do it to the 5219 negative or whatever it is, or which is flatter.
See, my view on it always was, when I shot on film and I actually shot negative, I was quite into a guy called Jan Velicki and Ivan Zacharias' work, because they did a lot of printing. They actually got prints made, like for Kodak print film struck, so proper print struck. So they shot on film, but then they get a print struck and they grade the print. And my argument was like, we grew up in the cinema, like because your references Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson, and famously shoot on film. Yeah. And our memory of cinema is in a cinema, watching a print being projected onto a screen, right? Yeah. And those prints have the primary dyes, RGB dyes, right? Whereas negative has the secondary dyes, and it's a different look. In my opinion,
absolutely
looks different. Yeah. Negative, right?
Yeah. So that was negative, right? Yeah. And I wanted to do. I didn't want to do. I wanted to do the print stock because I felt like, it's almost like negative to negative. Yeah. You get what I mean? Yeah. In a way, it kind of. So what happened was the machine that scanned it and then processed it, there was a problem in processing, which meant that there was a slight rhythmic flicker.
Yeah, which is quite
nice. Actually worked really nice. It just really brought more of that filmic feel to it. Yeah. I mean, you can see it subtle, but you can see it definitely in a few shots. But also, for me, the colors and everything.
I was going to say the colors.
That's the primary thing.
Yeah, it's slightly richer, particularly in reds and stuff. I think.
Yeah. Well, in the print stock, I did another one which I've sent over as a reference, and it was that was on print, and you can. It's so rich. The image is much deeper colors and much more kind of, kind of more, a bit more saturation. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain really, but it felt much more. Sort of a forceful,
robust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember speaking to a stills photographer once, talking about the differences he's shooting on one DSLR that shoots at whatever K now, which is comparable to the Hasselblad medium format cameras.
Okay.
And he said something really beautiful. He goes, "Yeah, the thing is they're a bit tinny."
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's the perfect word to use
Yeah.
to explain the richness of the Hasselblad image over the DSLR image. The Hasselblad just has it's a bit more robust, a bit more solid."
I always feel sorry for colorists because we're always saying stuff like that to them. It's a bit tinny, and they have to figure out what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, it just feels a little tinny, a little bit, you know.
I'm sure they're all in the pub together talking about how they just pretend to move a knob. And it goes, "That better." And we
You
go,
know what I
"Yeah,
do?
that's-
Because that is so true. It's like they can just do that. And a lot of the time, probably even, and I'm always like, have you done the change yet? You know, but what I do is I get them to do before and after
Yeah.
flick.
Yeah,
So that I can actually be like,
I do that
like-
all the time, so I don't get caught out by that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
lose respect for you, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
You don't even know what you're looking at, mate.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
should I take you through?
I'm like, have you done that change yet?
Yeah,
Because I actually kind of like that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know whether my eyes have just
Yeah,
changed, adjusted to the image or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah,
And then you know when they haven't done a change because they're trying to be nice.
yeah.
Like,
Right.
well, yeah. You're like, ah, crap. I
You
look
caught
like a
them
right
out.
idiot
Yeah,
now, don't I?
yeah.
But sometimes I think, yeah, you know.
Do you have any graders in particular that you like to work with?
Yeah, I love-
regularly?
I mean, I used to work with a guy called Joseph Bicknell a lot, but
Where's
he
he
moved to New York, so
Oh,
he's
right.
with Company 3.
Right.
So just because it's harder to, you know, work with someone who's in New York, it's but basically I was on the lookout for a new colorist, and then I was introduced to a guy called Johnny Tully, who I just basically did this one project with him, and he just blew me away with his attention to detail and ideas and kind of just
Where's he based
collaborative.
out of?
He's now at Cheat, actually.
Right. Yeah. You've done really well. haven't you?
Yeah. Well, Bicknell was at Cheat, but then I think he was like a co-partner, and then he went to Company 3, and I think, but now Johnny's there as a senior colorist and stuff. I mean, the thing is, I don't get to use Johnny so much anymore because I'm doing a lot more international stuff, so it's a bit trickier to kind of. I've managed to get a few over to him, but there's so much politics.
Do you ever take any crew abroad with you, or do you,
Sometimes,
you get to?
not
Yeah.
so much recently.
I've
It's
never
quite
been able
hard.
to do that. I kind of started in a time where it's harder to argue that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the
Who would
nature
you
of the
take if you
project.
could take one person? Who would it be? No, I mean, obviously it depends on the job.
Yeah.
So if it's like camera heavy, then the focus pull is probably more
Yeah,
needed, but
exactly.
I'd
Yeah.
usually go for a gaffer.
If it's kind of like more run and gun doco,
Mm.
but you know, or we're like hitting a lot of different stuff all the way through, I would take a focus puller. I'd take one of my sort of best focus pullers I could get, because I know things would be run really really well. Otherwise, if it was like a very heavy lighting or a big kind of lighting studio, or even just a big kind of feature film thing, I'd take a gaffer.
Gaffer, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Should we look at some more of your work?
yeah,
Should we go through it section by section?
Yeah, sure.
Let's start with music videos, because this is where. How do you
Yeah,
go back?
music videos. Love and hate relation
Oh no, it's not replaying. Yeah.
to film as well.
Okay. And that's one you're very well known for as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I
And
think
then-
so.
I wouldn't mind talking about these ones after.
Oh,
why don't
yeah,
we
yeah,
start- Yeah, why don't we start?
Yeah, whichever one you fancy.
I remember that one on your Instagram.
Yeah,
actually. That's the time. Last
16
time
mil. Yeah, it was my
Yeah.
first. I think that was my first project with my 16 mil camera,
Ah,
which I sold about 2 years ago
do
now.
you ever regret selling that?
Oh, every day. Yeah, but I wasn't shooting enough on it, and
Right.
I was buying a new house.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Was that a conversation with your wife? That the camera's got to go.
No, it was me. I suggested it. I mean, the thing is, like, it's actually probably quite interesting for DPs and stuff. In fact, I had this conversation the other day about DP, because you always get asked that question. You know, should I buy equipment or not?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you've got some really, because you know, I think yes, it's good to own equipment, definitely, because it gives you another passive income that you can bring in, which helps you keep going. You know, you can maximize your money from jobs and stuff, but also with the 16 mil camera, it was kind of like more of a, it was kind of a 50-50. It was like, I hope I make some money from this, but really I'm buying it because I love shooting on film and I want to do more film projects. And it really did that. You know, I was able to sell 16 million on so many more low budget music video, 10 grand music videos, but you don't think you got any money. And
Well, what year was it you bought the camera?
I think so. Let's see. So I would say 2000 and maybe about 2017,
Right.
something like that.
And
16 maybe.
and how many music videos did you manage to? Because you shot, I remember seeing in your CV, you shot like 300 music
Something
videos?
like that.
Wow.
I only found that out though because I made a private YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and I was just going through and
But I mean, that's
videos.
almost like a video every two videos a month for 10 years or something.
Well, I
crazy.
kind of like also included some of the stuff where I do like live, we shoot them like music videos, but they're
Yeah.
effectively like live Vivo
Yeah.
things as well. And I did a whole bunch of those
Yeah.
with different styles and different
Yeah.
kind of things, you know.
I mean, that's because traditionally the sort of great cinematographers and short form cinematographers in my era, they all started with music videos. They
Yeah.
did a whole before they.
They're so great. I mean, music videos are the places where you can make all the mistakes and
Mm.
not get absolutely chewed out.
Mm.
Commercials is where if you make a mistake, you'll get chewed out, but
Mm.
you probably might get away with it.
Yeah.
And then like big Hollywood films, if you make a mistake, everybody comes down on you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, you kind of quite expendable on a Hollywood film. There's a
Yeah.
period in cinema actually in I think it was in the 70s when DOPs were getting sacked, replaced so regularly
Oh yeah.
that all of the ASC members got together, all the cinematographers, they phoned each other up and they said, look, we're going to make a pact between all of our cinematographers that when you get booked as a cinematographer to replace another cinematographer,
Yeah.
your duty is to call the first cinematographer up and discuss it with before you take the job,
Good
right?
idea. Yeah.
And so what was happening is the first cinematographer wasn't even aware that he was getting sacked most of the time.
Oh God.
And then the other cinematographer will go, oh, you know that they were trying to replace you.
Yeah.
And the first one would go, no, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then because of those conversations, the first cinematographer has the opportunity to go back to the director and go, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it would be like a therapy session and they'd sort their problems out and they wouldn't get replaced, right?
I mean, it's horrible though, isn't it? Because I mean, I worked on a film and you know, there's people walking around on set and you're like, everybody's, because it's such a gossipy, you know, like
Blame kind of culture.
well, it's just such a gossipy sets are like full of gossip, and they kind of have to be on those kind of things for those big films because sometimes they don't give you the people they're very protective of information, so information is then like really important to share. It's not quite a currency, but it's like, you know, you'll talk to, you know, even before I joined the industry, I remember when I met Mike Southern, he was saying, you know, Gaffer will walk into the production office to discuss something that they need, and he'll be reading forms, learn to read upside down forms and stuff, or whatever's on the producer's table, and go back and be like, oh, so by the way, I know that the X, Y, and Z, you know, because because people are so protective of your information. But the thing is, I was on a shoot once and everybody knew this person was going to get fired on Friday, and they're walking around the whole week, and you just feel like, but you can't really say anything because you'll probably get fired for telling them that they're going to get fired, and it's just like, it's unsurprising that happened.
On that subject, how do you sort of deal with the mental health of it? And sort of, do you get? I mean, you've been on sets that are just unpleasant sets to be on.
Yeah,
Have you been on sets with directors that really don't like working with you? I've had a couple of those.
I think so, probably. I mean, what I would say is that, for sure, like, you know, there's the problem. I think the film industry is so full of egos as well. And I think if you're a director, you know, you've got a lot of pressure. And also if you then mix in kind of a bit of an ego or whatever on top of that, you know, as in like, I am the Lord Master of everything and all that kind of thing. Sometimes that can, you know, if you're not subservient enough, perhaps, then you can get kind of chewed out or whatever. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I couldn't say. I'm pretty sure people haven't liked me on on shoots, you know. I mean, of course, I think you can't please everybody and stuff, and it definitely affects you mentally. But
do you get a lot of repeat work with directors you work with?
I do. Yeah, I get a lot of repeat work with a lot of directors, and I think that's because generally, like, people like working with me, and I'm quite calm, and I crack a joke, and I do try to keep things light sometimes as well, because I think that helps with everybody on set. You know, I mean, concentrate when you need to concentrate and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, I think you definitely have points, and also like you wonder why people don't hire you again, especially if you have a really successful job that you've done, and like the visuals are a big selling point. But then you have to kind of remind yourself that, you know, it's never usually about you, and you're always going to be in your own head, and you're always going to think your id is always going to say it's you, you're the reason, or you're not, you're the reason not, or whatever. And you just have to kind of remember that everybody else is thinking those things as well. And actually, they've literally done studies where you can look at where you think people are much more interested in you than you actually are.
Yeah, right.
And that applies to everything, and that applies to the negative stuff as well as the positive stuff.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep reminding yourself of all that.
Yeah, the good news is that no one gives a shit, right?
Yeah,
about you.
Yeah. Or if they do, if they give a shit in a negative way, it's going to be, it's not going to be very as bad as you think it is. It'll be a very small part of their mindset. Whereas in your head, you'll probably spend hours worrying about it, and they might think about it for a minute, and then they're on to the next thing. So,
Yeah, that's good advice. How do you deal with the fact that there's increasing competition in DOPing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think again you have to, you know what? Like, I mean, I've literally said to directors, if I've worked with them too much, I've said, and it's definitely happened a couple of times. They've just called me for everything, and I've said, look, I just want you to know you can hire another DP, and by saying that to them, that mentally for me, that means that when they do hire another DP, because it's going to happen, whether you're not available or they get tired of working with you, because I mean, let's face it, people get bored after a while. They work with people all the time. You know, it just helps you get over that mental hump a bit. And like I always say to, like, as well, if I'm doing any kind of mentoring or whatever, I'm like, I fully expect us to go for a job together at some point and for you to win it, and that'll be okay, you know. And that's kind of like, you've got to be at peace with that.
Yeah.
I've won jobs off, I know for certain at least one BSc person I've won a job off, and like I'd only been DPing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? You know, like anybody with any sense would hire the person who's got the 3 letters, you know, over some dude who's been doing it for a few years. So
you are a BSc yourself now?
No, I'm not. No. I did tell you that.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah.
Because someone told me you were BSc.
Nah, unless they didn't tell me. But...
because I was surprised because I know it's mainly feature film recommended. It's an old institution.
No.
Yeah.
Cut that out. Don't put that in. Yeah, who's telling you that? Because I need to slip him a $5 when I say.
Right, yeah. Well, at least the name's out there with the letters after it. So it's only a matter of time.
Oh my God, really? Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying that those kind of rumours can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they'd probably shuffle around the papers, go, "Oh my God, haven't we given him the BSc?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Right? It's funny because, like, you know, like James Rhodes won the Oscar this year, and I remember him before he went BSc, and it's literally, I watched him kind of shooting these low budget films and then BSc and then doing these TV shows. And then I think like that film was like one of the first big films that he done. I don't know, actually, I should probably double check that. But, and then all of a sudden, it's like so funny how you see these careers kind of progress almost sometimes like incredibly quick.
That's what it feels like.
In a really positive way.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. You know?
The problem is the older you get, the more time accelerates. It's a kind of,
right.
Our perception of our life is, you know, when you're a kid, it's like a couple of years seems like eternity. When you get older, because the proportionality of your experience over the time you've been alive is different, right? So time accelerates. So even, you know, like even seeing you a few years ago, I was thinking, I saw Dave probably a year ago.
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was like 3 years ago, and it's just and because of that, you get to a point in your career where the people coming up behind you, they seem to be doing a lot more with less time.
Yeah,
it's just
I mean, that always happens, and it's always tough, like mentally, and you have to really work hard to, because you know, you can't, you just can't, that stuff you can't factor for. It's just right place, right time, right background or whatever, and you got to, but it's something you always have to keep telling yourself all the time, stay in your own lane or whatever. Usually when I start thinking like that, I go into a sort of, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? How do I want to do it? And start thinking about it.
Have you always had a kind of a plan, a kind of career plan?
Kind of.
You mentioned this to me before, that you sat down with your wife at one point and said, right, are we going to go for this? Or am I going to become a DOP?
Oh, yeah.
And take a drop in income for how long that takes.
Yeah.
And so that was Mark's kind of like...
I mean, I've had that conversation at least 3 or 4 times. I mean, I remember when I first moved to London and I was working at the publishers, and I managed to get my girlfriend, who's now my wife, a job there. And, you know, I wasn't getting any trainee work or any work in the film industry. I was barely getting...
This is pre-DIT Red, was it?
This is, pre-everything. And I think I made like 100 quid. I ran out of money because I made like 100 quid in 2.5 months or something, and I had to get a job. And then And then I remember doing this job and thinking, well, this is all right. Working in publishing isn't too bad. You know, the money's okay. And I'd already had that one thought process after finishing university and working for a bank, being like, oh, maybe working in a bank I could. But I always kind of do that. I kind of, when I was working at the bank, it was a terrible job. It was like 9 grand a year it was when I joined. And I remember I'd sit there researching how to be a trader or how to do this or do that in the banking area, just in case my kind of crazy idea to move to London and become a DP didn't work out. But yeah, I think by that point when I decided to make the jump, it was kind of spent it.
It's all you said. It's always been in your blood from when you were 15. You said?
Yeah. Well, it was all I've always wanted to do it. Yeah. It's crazy when you're actually doing it and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, it's actually happening. Yeah,
but it took a while.
Should we look at some?
Sure.
Because there's so much I want to break down with you.
Yeah, of course.
So this one is. So let's move. So actually, we're talking about the 16mm one. Should we have a quick look at that one? Just,
sure.
Because
this was the first one I did with my 16mm camera, and it was again. Actually, funnily enough, the focus puller on this was the one who did the Kodaline job with me, and it was just me and him on this as well.
Right.
I think we had a grip who was the director's flatmate, and I think
so. Again, all pretty much available light.
Yeah. Just pull the curtains, let the light come in.
Yeah.
I think I had a light in that room when she's lit, just a top light.
Yeah.
But everything else is just available light. And just spot metering everything. You know. Yeah.
So do you light a lot by your meter when you're shooting on film?
On film, yeah. Well, what I do is I would
prefer spot over incident.
Yeah, I kind of prefer spot. Over incident. I mean, I'd use a stills camera as well.
Is that
to see how
that's a real? Because when I saw that image on your Instagram, I always thought that looked like some kind of studio.
Yeah, I know.
So it's almost so perfect. It's like,
Thanks. Yeah, I mean it's Canon. So it was the zoom lens. It was the only lens I had for the camera at the time.
Yeah.
It was a Canon zoom. Yeah, no, the 11-165.
Right. Yeah, that's what I love about 16mm. The lenses are the handheld and
zoom in, focus, zoom back out again.
Yeah.
And then we also had some ultra.
So that's lit there,
which I borrowed. Yeah. No, that's sun.
That's sun, is it?
That's sunlight. Yeah, we were just very lucky. I hazed up the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was just like, one of those situations. It's funny because I was listening to your previous podcast, and it's the same thing. It's like, the sun's perfect. We shoot quick. Let's go.
Yeah. It's the only time DOPs get really excitable on set.
Yeah,
the lights,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But like that, it was again. I just spot metered the sun,
and that's sun again for the window.
Yeah, all natural. Just use use what you've got. I mean, the great thing about film is it just holds everything really, and
the mistakes are good mistakes, aren't they? When when it goes to black, it looks nice. When it goes off to white, it really looks nice. It
exactly.
blooms in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So it all sort of feels organic, doesn't it? To the
eye? Absolutely.
I think that's the thing.
The only thing is in this, you see the stuttering. That was when I think we shot it at 24 or something, and it wasn't synced up properly.
Right.
I can't remember now to the music, but
that's just a mistake on camera.
That was just was that a mistake on camera? I mean, I think that was just me and the director not communicating well enough about what the playback speed of the track was or whatever.
Yeah,
and that was nice. I mean,
what coast was that?
That was Margate.
Margate, right? Yeah, I mean, you got an amazing sunset, so you got a lot. There's a lot of good fortune on this shoot.
Yeah, I mean, the director, it's funny because I'd seen a couple of his jobs that he'd done, and I thought this guy's got an incredible eye.
So how did you find it? Do you hunt out directors yourself?
Where did I see his stuff? Probably on Instagram or something.
And you DM'd him, did you?
I think, did I DM? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I try not to do that too much, but...
Right. Because I've never known how to do that.
It's such a hard... Because the thing is, like, I think in the early days, I definitely used Instagram was an incredible tool for, making connections with people. I mean, like, the funny thing is when I went lighting, I didn't know any directors or any like I didn't really know anybody who could get me work because I'm quite introverted. So on set, especially as a DIT, I would tuck myself away a lot of the time. But I know the DPs and I know the camera crews really well and get on with them amazingly, but barely talk to the directors. So I didn't have any kind of.
Even if you could talk to the directors, it's very hard to win a job.
Oh yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's not, and it's not a good look for the DOP.
Yeah, I can't. It's DIT, right?
Yeah. So in a way, that's not. But
you can't do it.
My question is like, how would you? So how do you get going? How do you?
Well, I always say the same thing. It's the same as when you're a trainee. Somebody probably gave. I mean, I think this was just organically how I used to do it. But if I would email someone as a trainee, or if I get in touch trying to drum at work, I'd never ask directly for a job. I think if somebody's getting in touch with you and saying nice things to you, or just getting on your radar, they don't need to ask for a job.
Right.
It's kind of implicit in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, I think it's better, like if you're messaging a director because you want to work with them, you don't need to necessarily say that. You just look, you've got to do your research. You've got to look into why do you want to work with them.
You spend a lot of time hunting out directors on Instagram? So.
Not so much anymore, but when I started, I would kind of work on, really, I used Instagram as a research tool. Who are the directors? I didn't even know who they were. Like who's doing what and what. And
I try asking my agent for that, but that's an ongoing conversation where she keeps kind of avoiding.
I don't think you can. I think you have to. I mean, like, if I'm honest, Instagram is such a mental drain. It's hard to keep going, and I've definitely let it kind of settle into the background a bit over the last few years, mainly because it is hard to constantly be engaged with it and stuff, because you're always seeing the best facing stuff from everybody, and it can be quite a drain mentally.
Yeah.
But what it is really good at is for kind of making you aware of who's doing what and where and how and what's kind of on trend or whatever at the moment. And that's where it's really useful. So like I was using it for that anyway. So if I thought that there was a director that, was at a similar point in their career as me, and I liked what they were doing, and I thought we could maybe do some nice stuff together, I'd drop them a message and say, oh, this is great.
Do you ever drop the camera, only 60mm camera in there as well?
Never. I never did that.
Yeah.
I probably should have done. I mean, I had it in my Instagram bio that I had it.
Oh, so that's not probably, because I'll see that on the...
But also I never oversold it. But the reason I bought that camera was because I wanted to shoot more film, and I wanted to do more music videos on film. And also there was a big mixed media thing going on. So I thought I might be able to get it on a few commercials, and it worked. That was exactly what happened. And it was like stuff like this. I think the budget was less than £1,000.
Yeah.
So I didn't get paid for this, but I wanted to use my camera, and I liked the director's work, and I wanted to work with the director because I thought we might do something really interesting together, and I was just like, I'll bring my camera, I think I bought it for free. We'll just pay the focus puller. I'll load the film rolls, I definitely did a few like that. I mean, I worked with a director called James Slater, and it was just me and him and the band. And I loaded the film, focused it, operated it, did the lighting, had a few sky panels, wrote all the lab notes.
Which one was that one?
It's not on here, actually. It's one of the 300. That's somewhere online. I could send it to you. But
so should we look at the Wolf Alice one next?
Yeah.
This one is shot. So this one again's film.
Yeah, this is 35 and 16.
And 16. So why both formats, and what determines which format you were using for?
So the director.
Play it through.
Yeah, the director.
Is that lightning strikes in the background?
Yeah. So we had like a load of sort of strobes.
Because it's interesting how the lightning strikes affect on film.
Yeah, so that's the timing shift box. So they used to use it a lot in old 35mm films and stuff. Like when they used to shoot music videos on 35, they'd use it a lot, and you can switch it on and off as you're.
So just talk the viewer through what this.
So basically, because you're shooting, so on 35mm, you've got your gate, you've got your pull down claws, you've got the spinning mirror and all that. So all this timing shift box does is misalign the shutter.
So it takes it out of phase.
Yeah. So so as the film is being dragged, so as it's being replaced, normally what happens is the pressure plate goes in, holds the film in place. The mirror, the shutter opens. You expose, the shutter closes, and then the claws will pull that film down, and it resets. But what this does is it throws that all out of sync, so that it's pulling the film down. It holds it in position with the pressure plate, but then leaves the shutter open as it's being pulled down.
So you get streaks.
So you get streaks from any highlight areas mainly.
Yeah.
And it just gives a cool effect. It's just kind of like, we did all this fun stuff, where you ramp.
Here we go. Here, that's it being used there. Just so
exactly.
People can see what we're talking about. That streaking there. It's that's the film being pulled down whilst exposed. So streaks.
Exactly. And I think they used it. I mean, when I found out about it from just reading old manuals on ARRI cameras and stuff, and then I did a test a year before this for a TV show.
Yeah.
For like a title sequence, and they loved all the other stuff that I'd done, the ramping and the flashing of the the film as you go down to 1 frame a second back up again and all that. But they weren't so interested in the timing shift box stuff. But I put the tests on Vimeo and showed it to the director of this, and he was like, "I love that stuff. Let's do it." So, and then I think I saw an old rock video. I can't remember which one now, but they had the strobes going off because there was not a lot of information online about it, and I was like, that looks really cool. It was like from an very early 2000s or late 90s music video, and might have been Queens of the Stone Age.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that looks great. So that's so I was like, we'll strobe it, flash it, and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to come out. Well, you never are.
You never are.
Especially when you're doing stuff like that.
Sounds like the one I used to use. It sounded like the camera was breaking.
Oh,
so it makes a really awful sound. Yeah, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Do you know what I mean? You think it's you're right on the edge of like, am I actually breaking their camera?
I mean, am I snapping the film and all that kind of thing? Yeah.
But when I used it on my job, I did it on a Stolly job campaign, and we had all these candle lights. So when we did it, the candles would make these streaks.
Oh yeah, nice.
And the director loved it so much that literally every shot, we kind of overused it on that one.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, well, the director got annoyed with that because they did one take and I didn't do it because I thought I better do one without, because otherwise, if I'm doing this all the time and it doesn't turn out very well, it's gonna be horrendous or whatever. So I did one without, and he was like, "Why did you do it? Let's do another one, but fuck it up this time. I want more fucked up."
Yeah. I was like, okay. Good. Yeah. Directors love that, don't they? They love it. So the other thing, time I used it was for a Bran Flakes commercial, and it was a bike going around the circuit, like a velodrome.
Yeah.
And basically I had these lights, so I put these lights behind the bikes, and then we turned the camera on its side. So when the bike the trails, the whizzing past.
I did do that on another music video with James Slater, but again it was just me and him, and we shot 2 music videos back to back, and the first day was 16mm, and the second day we had 35, and I put the camera on it on an L plate and mounted it sideways, all on my own again with the time shift box, and tried to do that, but it didn't turn out as well, for sure.
Right. What's your main decision process in choosing between 35 or 16? Because this one's shot on both again.
I mean, this was like more just consistency and
so that
mixed media feel.
Is that black and white 16, or was that?
So we shot some black and white, we shot some color,
and you never get colors like that.
I think that might have been 16mm Triax.
It's a little bit cross processes, because
the
those yellows are so kind of acid.
Yeah, they were going to. There was one talk at one stage about making it all black and white, and I was like, please don't do that.
No, I'm glad you won that argument.
Yeah. So like this, so that I think is 16, but I think even maybe some of it they even accentuated the grain in post.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 35. And basically I just had the focus puller and
look how red that strap. That's when I think you really can see Phil. It's when you see the red strap on his guitar.
He'll have to be quick on there.
Oh, there, can you see in the background?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that to me looks like almost like Kodachrome.
Yeah.
The way the red's popped.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. You have to be quick.
You have to be quick on this one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great though. I love 35. I mean, there is no decision process I mean, the great thing about that flicker, you can have it flickering, so it can either be consistent or it can be kind of like constantly pulsing, and you can control the speed of that. Which it's just such a fun thing to play with.
Did the band like the video when they saw it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think they kind of like so I did another video for them, like on their previous album, and it's completely different. It's like psychedelic. You know, with some directors who I worked with a few times after that, and but they did a whole like kind of like documentary interview thing, and I remember the DP who shot it after. It all looked very kind of quite similar to that, and then I think another DP did some music videos for them, and it's different aesthetically in terms of like they had a lot more wide angle stuff.
But you sort of set a look for them that they.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go that far, but like, you know,
well,
it feels like they kind of. It's interesting to see in the previous album how kind of psychedelic and kind of I mean, I used some like super like fisheye lenses, but it was all like very kind of like Alice in Wonderland kind of.
So that is one of the advantages,
kind of thing.
That is one of the advantages of not owning too much equipment, because then with every job you can go, right, for this one, do you have certain relationships with facility houses that just let you raid the shelves when you got a low budget music video?
I mean, I would say one of my biggest sort of supporters was Ben Mitchell at Focus 24.
Same.
Yeah, I love him. He was just like, you know, such a wonderful.
He's a great guy. Just bring the mic close to you.
Wonderful human being. Ben Mitchell.
We really want Ben to hear this.
We go for it.
So you
now and again for a curry.
You put me onto Ben. So because I had very early.
He supported me from So the first short film I did outside of university, he gave me a red camera and master primes for, and that was a very long time ago. That was when they just had the red.
Right.
Because I met Ben on your shoot. I think it was the shoot I did with you, maybe, through Mind's Eye. And that's where I met him. And he had another person he was working with, but then they left, I think. And he now... But yeah, over the years, Ben's always been so like amazingly supportive. I don't really feel like I've paid him back for all the support that he's given.
Same.
Like I'm waiting for an opportunity to kind of just be like, finally, you know, like I can do this.
The problem I've got is because I've got a lot of my own lenses now, so I just hire cameras off him fundamentally. Occasionally, other bits and pieces. But I love just having one company. I used to go to Panavision because the directors I work with.
I still go to Panavision as well.
I had they had close relationships with Panavision, so I sort of went through all the anamorphic lenses that we all know and love. But to be honest now, because I have more of my own equipment, Ben's a really good fit for me. But he's they've been super, and the whole kind of team there and everyone, they've never let me down.
I mean, what I always say to Ben is like getting for people like me, it's like having all that different type of glass, different lenses available. You know, that's what excites me, kind of thing. And he's kind of built that up a lot, I think.
Well, he's got. Do you know Eddie? Eddie Van Diemen Tech there. He's got Eddie there now. So, but I want to do a podcast with Eddie actually.
Oh yeah.
Lens.
That'd be interesting.
He doesn't like the term guru, so he's not. But he is a lens guru.
But then Panavision I never used to go to, but then they hired George Rumsey, who then did their commercials and music videos for quite a long time, and he was just a person I already knew and a friendly face, and that got me into using Panavision kit. And he's just he's an agent now. He's kind of become.
I heard about this,
and he'll be an amazing agent, you know.
Cinematography, agent.
A few of my friends signed with him, unsurprisingly. But but it's kind of weird because I'm not doing as much in the UK now, so it's hard to. This is the thing;
it's hard to keep the relationships going, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's just like I'd like to be able to sort of be able to give more jobs to people and all that kind of thing, that especially people who've helped me.
Is that mainly your agent getting you work abroad, or is that how's that?
I'd probably say it's mainly off my own back, a lot of it. Although that being said,
and how did that come about then?
Again, I think Instagram was a really good thing, getting your name out there and stuff. I mean, what I would say is I have a secondary agent now for sort of east. You know, they're called Go East actually, and they
So you
just
have
got me a job.
two agents then.
Yeah, I got
And
two
you
agents.
negotiated that with. Don't they usually want exclusivity?
I think well, it's kind of the thing where I think it's a conversation with everybody about it. You know, with my previous agent, they were happy with me to have an American agent because they don't have a presence there. You know, but like I think with with it's kind of a new thing having a second agent. You know, and
have they got you any work? Yeah.
Well, I'm doing my first job that they've got me this weekend. I'm going to Beirut to shoot a music video on tomorrow. Actually, we go up at 3:30 tomorrow morning. Which is going to be fun.
That'll be fun.
I love it.
Have you shot in Beirut before?
Yeah, once before the unfortunately when the port exploded, which was I did a commercial out there, but then they've also put me up for another job maybe in China afterwards, which is a commercial. You know, like be like 2 weeks. So hopefully it works out, and that's that. But it's like those are markets that UTA aren't really kind of like for me aren't really kind of dealing with. So I think they're happy as long as. If it was any of my regular clients that I'm working with in Eastern Europe or whatever, like that's a bit of a crossover. And I think the deal that I signed was, any kind of already, if they find me any new clients, then that's fine, whatever. But if it's people I'm already working with, then, that's not okay.
Talk us through, when you get a job abroad, talk us through the process of how you prep the job, because you're obviously not relying on any of your crew. Do you have CVs of crew members that you had?
Well, you do when you've been, well, for me anyway, I guess once you've been doing it a while, especially with regular directors, you do end up working with the same crews sometimes, which is great. Otherwise, you have to put a lot of trust in the production company, and they always have people that they want you to use.
Yeah,
I think politically it's good to get on board with that.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, they always have their own
make it work.
And what about lists when you put camera lists in? Because what I try and do is I try and avoid giving a list until I've met the gaffer.
Right.
But then I ask I always put a couple of moldings down on things that I think that I'm going to want to use.
I've tried that before and then been told they don't have any in the country.
Well, I've been told that a lot as well. But I think what it does is it gets them on their toes, that they're thinking, oh, this guy, might be...
Yeah, and they end up suggesting something else.
Yeah,
and then actually that thing ends up being amazing, and you're like, actually, just use that for the next thing, So yeah, I mean, what I tend to do is first see where it is, what country is it? Like this job in Beirut, especially since I've worked there before, it costs a lot of money to hire stuff from another country and bring it in. And, you have to be aware of the budgets and stuff. And is it a worthwhile
fighting
expense
for something? Yeah.
With this particular project, I know it's like a music video, so it's not going to be like a crazy budget. So I'm already just saying, what are your rental houses? Send me the websites. I'll have a look at the equipment, have a discussion with the director.
Right.
And so I already kind of put the lenses and the camera down because I know what they have available, and I know what the director is looking for in terms of taste. And I know what's available, so I can make a quick decision on that without needing to think too heavily about it. And I can put the rest of the kit list together later. Lighting, I haven't done yet because again, that's I need to kind of speak to the gaffer. I've tried to kind of put some feelers out, and say we kind of need a desktop or we need an iPad with Luminaire or something like that to control the lights, so we can.
Is it an interior location?
No, it's exterior, but it's got a very specific kind of.
Are you shooting
color palette?
Are you shooting it dusk and night then?
Day, dusk, night, all of it basically. Yeah. So I just need to be quite versatile and make. I mean, I did a job recently with a gaffer, and it was incredible. He had it all on his iPad. He was in a studio. Even the Maxi Brute was on the iPad, so you can dim it up and down. He had all these
and that's all Luminaire
connectors. Yeah, Luminaire, and I wrote down all of the names of it.
Yeah,
because he has these.
That's what we want to do with this as well. Automate the whole thing. So
yeah, well, he had even the old tungsten lights. Like on each 1K bulb. Controllable, or at least back into the thing. And it was brilliant. I was so impressed by that.
The next guest we're getting on is a choreographer. She's done a lot of theatre work, so I started researching a little bit, and then I came across this glossary of lighting designer terms.
Oh right.
And it was just a whole new world. And I was like, oh my god, I've never heard of half the words we would have HMI tungsten. It's words that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
Then there's a whole other world of live lighting cue kind of dialogue, like,
Oh, really?
and I was thinking, wow, I'd like to kind of learn a bit more about this, because this is like, particularly now with all the Lumen Radio stuff and, putting things back through desks and having more automation.
Yeah,
I think this is probably a good time to learn some of the lingo.
I always get held up. I mean, I worked on quite a big film earlier this year as the B camera / Splinter unit, but it was all kind of a lot of American lingo,
right?
And I was just like, once or twice I had to go through. What does that mean? I don't understand that term. Like, is that?
Yeah, because there's a lot of I mean, even just the way the grip and the gaffers work in America as opposed to here, it's different. Like grip is obviously, and that translates to some other countries as well. But the whole roles are different.
It's a fascinating experience. I mean, the gaffer, the lighting crew just finished working with Chivo, the film and stuff, and it was kind of it was an interesting one. Especially as I wasn't the DP, so just splintering off and hoovering up bits and pieces here.
See, I'd really like that role. I like the idea of
it's great because you can just do it on a small scale. You're like kind of filming this scene that they've got this huge lighting setup for, and I'm in there, and then I'm kind of going in there, with just a little LED pad and some blackout or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that would be really cool because you don't have the responsibility. You're not carrying the film.
Exactly.
Yet you're learning loads as you go. And then trying to get into another DOP's head of matching their work. I think that must.
I thought I was going to get fired just all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. It was just very intense, and also such a different way of working. Like B camera, it's kind of it's such a different job. Unto itself.
In what way would you say?
Well, you've got the director who has their vision. You've got the DP who has their vision. You've got the A camera operator who also has their ideas and how to do stuff. And then as a B camera, you kind of have to slot in somewhere there, right? And it's kind of hard to figure out, especially if you've been heading everything up for such a long time, and then all of a sudden you're not the person who's making all the decisions, and you're not the person who's doing all the suggestions and whatnot. Then you have to kind of figure out where you sit and what your reach is and what you can do and what you can't do, and where you can go, where you can't go. And then also you're just operating, and you just have to be the best operator ever, and just think about that all day.
And were you operating wheels or just?
We did wheels. We did handheld.
So did you taught yourself wheels?
Technoscopes. Yeah, I mean, I already knew kind of wheels anyway, because I'll be operating Technocranes and things like that.
How did you teach yourself wheels?
Oh, I borrowed a friend of mine, Steadicam, Josh Brooks has. He had you can get these computer program wheels.
I saw it at the BFC show. I was thinking to get it. Actually,
it's fantastic.
Like,
I mean, I think it costs $20,000.
You fight aliens, don't you, or something?
Well, I was using it and following cars, and but I'd already kind of like taken. So Ben lent me an O'Connor head. Sorry, a geared head, and I had a laser, and I did the whole thing like that at home. Like before, and then I'd been to rental houses, always try and have a go on it and stuff. But because I knew I was doing this film, I thought I better really get good at it, like much better than I was already. And so I was playing these games and following lines and just doing 10 minutes a day and just practicing. And then I was so good at it, I was at the rental house just going, I'd get every job, I'd go in and prep, and I'd get them to set it up with a laser, and it was just like I got really.
And now you can. And so, how often do you use wheels? And
as often as I can. I do think they are really great, actually. So precise and just, there is something really special about it. But I think it all depends on what the shot is doing, But that precision is so great, Although the key grip, on that film did tell me, I put the geared head on for some shots at the beginning, towards the end of the shoot, and I was like, I'm going to go a gear head this morning to do this stuff, and he was just like, please, Dave, please just don't do it. Just put the O'Connor back on, because today's going to be a complete nightmare. I don't want to be worried about you on the gear head as well. And I was like, because I've got no ego, I was like, okay, fine, let's do that. And he was I mean, this is a guy who's probably one of the best grips in the
Yeah.
world. You know,
Yeah.
he does all the Fast and Furious, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, sure. Well, I'm definitely going to defer to you
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I'm like all of a sudden on sliders and things like that,
Yeah.
and it's a nightmare to do
Yeah.
a clean head on a slider.
Yeah.
It's completely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I think there's a right place and a wrong
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And especially if you're like, you just don't want to like, you want to do good work, but you also don't want to stick your head above the parapet too
Yeah.
much,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wise.
But it is tough. It's a tough,
Mm.
tough old.
Let's carry on.
Yeah, sure.
So because we've got quite a bit to get through. So
yeah.
let's go. So this is the thing you're both known for. So let's go.
Okay.
This is one of the things that you're
Yeah.
most known for, right?
Yeah.
So would you say this is a kind of watershed moment in your career when this?
I think it was
let's
building
go
up
through.
to something like this. I mean, these guys, they're always doing incredible work.
So this is our
Crowns and Owls.
Crowns and
yeah,
Owls,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think I'd done 2 things before this.
How did you find them as directors? And did you
Yeah, great. I mean, this video
did
really.
you approach them? How did you get the?
No, they approached me actually. Basically, they said, you know, we want to work with you for a year or something.
Mm.
You know, that was that.
Wow.
I was in. I can't remember where I was at that point. I was in some foreign country doing
So
some shoot. I was in
talk us-
Beirut actually.
Talk us through this this shot here.
Oh yeah. So this is.
So how's the camera moving on this?
So this is motion control.
Right.
So I mean, you know, really, the Crowns and Owls had this all planned out very, very particularly, especially the first half of the music video.
Yeah.
You know, when they told me the idea and you know, what they were going to do, I was just like, I could see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. You know, I knew it straight away. I just had to make sure that visually, the style, and, you know, I put a lot of work into trying to kind of get a Kubrick kind of feel to it and stuff.
Yeah.
So much so that in the run up, I got an email from, they were doing the Kubrick exhibition,
Yeah.
and they emailed me to say, do you want to come? You come on the first day because of influencer stuff or whatever. And I was like,
right.
oh yeah, definitely. And I was like, can I bring these directors? And then I brought some DPs as well, so we all went together. And so it was great because I could look at the lenses that he was using and really kind of deep dive into it and everything. Because it's very heavily inspired by his films.
Yeah.
Especially, obviously,
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
you know. And we printed it to film as well.
So a shot. What format was it shot on?
This was Alexa.
Yeah. Alexa Mini.
I'm going to say Alexa Mini.
Yeah.
And then we printed it to a print stock.
Yeah.
Shot on a Canon zoom. I mean, all this stuff with him in the chair was one shot.
Yeah.
We just did some kind of slow zooms with the.
And that's a camera mounted onto the.
Yeah. So this was the second day. And we did all the stuff here at the second day, basically. So we mounted the camera to the end of the tank turret. And yeah, they just hired a tank for the second. I mean, all this stuff was kind of.
And where's the camera rigged here?
More freeform. So this was again just rigged to the bonnet of the car.
Yeah.
So he's leaning out the car with his baseball bat, doing kind of donuts and stuff. And yeah, this was very.
And this is all storyboarded, was it? All of this, you said that.
I mean, we kind of had these ideas for they had. I mean, you know, they're kind of a director collective, so they can spend a lot of time kind of working a lot of this stuff out. And they definitely had a lot.
It reminds me a little bit of the Gosh video, the guys in red.
Yeah.
The he did Athena recently. What's his name? Roman
Gavras.
Yeah.
Gabras. Yeah, that's an incredible video.
Yeah, isn't it? Just
So
I
heard that was 1 million.
Was it?
Well, I don't know.
Doesn't surprise me.
What I heard. But yeah, so I mean, they definitely had a lot of ideas. Like all of this stuff was very well. I mean, and I think like the best music videos, the director really does work a lot of this stuff out. I mean, obviously, what I'm bringing to it is the cinematography and the kind of, you know, the colors and the lighting and the all that kind of stuff.
But did they use motion control just for this one shot?
Yeah.
Only they brought a whole motion control rig in just for that one
just
shot.
for that one shot. Yeah.
Right.
We discussed different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And I think they were hoping to get a deal, but in the end they couldn't get a deal. So a lot of the budget went on that motion.
Yeah, I was going to say that's quite a commitment.
But it works really well, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, every time he comes back up, obviously it's a different person, and the art director built that plinth so that we could kind of go underneath. So even the whole movement is all one movement.
Let's watch that again, just so everyone can see. Can we break down roles? Where's Rolls Royce?
This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through this one.
Very heavy on the post.
Yeah, I was going to say this is so. I mean, there's so much going on in this. So the first thing, so you had a light moving.
So one thing I will say about this, it's super boring from a cinematography perspective,
Right?
Because most of this is actually post.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah. So this is all post.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so let's
I'll tell you what's real.
Yeah, break down the shots that are real. So tell me, yeah.
So none of this is real.
So this is a world we're entering into now. Where
This is
Yeah.
it. I mean, we shot loads of
did you
like.
shoot the wheel?
Nope.
No.
We shot loads of really interesting stuff for this, but
Did you
the
shoot a
amount
watch?
no, the amount of stuff that got used is very small. That
face.
person,
Yeah. This is brilliant. It's so fun.
that person,
Right.
with the lights on the face.
Yeah.
So we had projectors and things like that.
So you projected light onto the face.
Yeah. I mean, we shot so much stuff. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but we did all this like very kind of like cool projectory things.
And this is all post again.
all
Yeah.
post. Yeah. This director's fantastic. I mean, he's like, a big post.
Yeah.
to-
Well, clearly he seamlessly puts it together.
Yeah. It's so disappointing when you realize
Yeah.
you like look at the brief going, this is amazing, and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, great, I got surely. But we,
you shot her.
so this is all obviously
Yeah.
comped in together, but
the
the
face.
face and
Yeah.
the lady,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
walking, and
Yeah.
I had a whole kind of rig above the set.
So you just you put some
yes,
the art
on a
department
low
put-
angle track, and we're tracking along.
and the art department put some kind of shiny perspective.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you backlighting her with there? Do you remember?
So probably Source 4s or any
Yeah.
Source 4.
Yeah. So
Um,
and what were you projecting? What light were you using?
so we had a
the-
row of like LED sky panels or something, and we just had them running in
Yeah.
as in sequence.
And for her face, for the
Oh, for that it was
Yeah.
just like we had different types of material,
you weren't using the dado system with the
we had the
projector lens.
dados with
Yeah.
all the gobos, but for
Yeah.
this it was through like some hexagonal or circular metal sheet
metal,
or something.
metal.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I mean, we shot
Yeah.
so many different
Yeah.
with lights.
And then
coming through and
what light were you projecting through that?
it was probably a
Dado. It would have been a dado. I was going to say to get something that clean.
Yeah.
Who else does it better than dado?
Oh
right?
man, Dado.
Yeah.
There was a DP I worked with who called Clive. I want to say Clive Tickner.
Right. Yeah.
I have to double check.
Yeah.
But anyway, I used to do DIT with him, and he was a very old school. He did like the Spice Girls movie, but like he also like just all these incredible commercials. And I worked with him, and he would always use dados everywhere, even on digital. And the stuff that he would do with those is just
Yeah, same. I mean, the deeper I get into my lighting, the more I just rely on dado and Kino Flow.
Yeah,
For me,
yeah.
I don't think you can get a
I
better.
love a pack of dados. I always have a pack of dados.
Yeah.
I'm always like, bring a pack of
Did you
dados.
use Kino Flows much?
Not as much, no. But I mean, I'm listening to a lot of what you're putting out there about them.
Well, it's just
Kind
the
of
best color
interested.
science out of
Yeah.
without mentioning the big
Yeah.
brand out there.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
It's not great color science compared
Yeah,
to this,
sure.
and that's why people like Roger Deakins won't use them.
Right.
He won't use any LED, particularly for the artists.
Yeah.
It's always big tungsten man.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these, who allow them in because they got the full spectral response, and you get right skin
okay.
tone.
Interesting. Because I know Rob Hardy doesn't just uses
Tungsten again. Yeah, well, tungsten's safe because you know where you are with it.
Yeah.
If you've got the power for it, then tungsten's your best bet, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Tungsten's beautiful.
yeah. But
It's
when
weird, isn't it? That how you think it's just like just the way it's just different. It's just giving you more.
well, I think there's something about it being an incandescent source, so it's something burning, and what we're children of the sun, so we're all affected by a massive incandescent ball of fire in the sky, right? And so therefore, I think it's a soulful thing that tungsten just sort of works really well. And then when I remember listening to something, the big DOP, the big gaffer, not Sean White, it's another White, Julian White, Julian.
Yeah, I think I know.
Yeah, he's a big time gaffer, and he's always talking about the difference between electric looking light, electronic looking light, and natural looking light. And he's always talks a lot about that. And I think that you start with tungsten, it's the most natural incandescent light. Then you get to HMI, it's a little bit more electronic looking, and then you get to LED, that's more modern, sort of modern electronic. And I remember when Darius Khondji did Stealing Beauty or something. It was and he had this modern,
which I can't get a Blu-ray of, by the way.
Oh, really?
I've been trying for a while. Yeah.
Well, he had the actress in a traditional Tuscan setting, and it was a modern young girl, and so he lit her with Kinoflow with
Liv Tyler.
Yeah, Liv Tyler. Yeah, back then it was tube lights, Kinoflow tube lights, to give her a modern look in a traditional setting. So everything was lit with tungsten, and she was lit with Kinoflow. I love that. I love stuff like that because I think that
was that before or after Seven?
After Seven. Okay. Seven was this big Kinoflow.
I worked with Darius Khondji once.
Did you really?
Yeah, I loaded on a.
Wow.
It was only for like a day or something. It was a commercial. Yeah. But what a lovely guy.
Yeah.
And I tell you, like, the best thing that I learned from him, I mean, if I could have spent a month working with that guy, it would have been fantastic. But the best thing I learned that day was that at the end of the shoot, he'd go around and shake everybody's hands.
Right.
Even me, the loader, barely spoke to.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, like, he doesn't need to, like, I just thought, wow, coming from someone like that, it's fantastic. So, something I'm always trying to remember to do is to go around the crew, thank everybody, people that haven't even spoken to.
Right.
You know, to try.
Yeah. Get that human contact going.
Well, I just think it's it's important. It meant you know, it's just something you should do. You know.
So I mean, he's a bit of a hero of mine because of I saw Seven. It was, you know, this film you bring up.
Yeah.
I saw it at the cinema a couple of times. The only film I've ever gone back into straight after it's finished and watched it again.
Right.
Second time. That's the only film I've ever done that with.
I've done that with Fincher with Fight Club.
Oh, really?
But I had it on. I never saw it at the cinema. I had it on video.
Right.
And I literally watched it and walked around the block, came back, watched it.
Yeah. I mean, that's another, for me, another seminal film. We've got very similar tastes of movies, I think.
Yeah.
But for me, Darius Khondji's work on Seven was the first time I'd seen what I would call precision lighting done in a really modern way, because he's using very, very, very limited amounts of light. He really understood his film stocks very well, and he used flashing and all kinds of different E&R and all kinds of different processes. But he even had a Vericon system which stuck in front of it. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Where you flash you flash.
Yeah.
But he was really in control of understanding his emulsion. But what I loved about him is he used very minimal light. So he used the Kinoflows on very low settings and
soft light as well.
Yeah, and he managed to make locations look very, very cinematic by having this kind of, you know, Kinoflow kind of reinvented location lighting in a way you could.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that when that film came out, it was just groundbreaking.
Yeah, for me, it's
cinematography.
So I would call that sort of modern film noir. Like for me, the big films over the years, like obviously, you know, I think for me the big kind of, if I was thinking of 3 films that really influenced me, I'd say Citizen Kane for you know, the big hard lights and kind of deep focus and all of that. And then I'd say Blade Runner for me was a big kind of
Blade Runner.
Yeah, the mole beam. Well, it's actually xenon lights and But then for me, the third one would be Seven.
Right. Okay.
So and then probably into Fincher later on as well.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I love Fincher. Weirdly, I don't know if he's in my. I've Letterboxd. Do you have Letterboxd, the app?
No.
You can log all the films you watch.
Oh, really?
See what other people are watching and
interesting.
And what's trending and things like that. And I use it as a log for logging all my films.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah,
and you can pick your favorite films and put them at the top. And but it's weirdly there's no Fincher in there. But Fincher's one of my favorite, definitely one of my favorite.
Yeah,
it's like Goodfellas, Blade Runner. Yeah, and there will be blood.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. Like,
There Will Be Blood.
Something
so special about that film.
I just love that film.
Yeah.
It's just.
I think it's. I mean, a few films are masterpieces of his because he's done pretty good work.
Oh,
but I have to say that's his best film.
Yeah, I love that film.
Yeah,
like, and I'm holding off watching it again for a bit. But anyway, I know we need to keep on.
So let's press on. So that's.
So yeah, this is mostly post.
Yeah, it's hilarious going through it. Yeah, so that guy clearly.
You can see on there though the way it's going. So the chaser from using sky panels or whatever looks terrible. Never do it. Definitely always use tungsten.
Right.
To dim up and dim down.
So the
gaffer assured me that it would be fine, but then I think because we shot at 50 frames or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't become smooth, and you can see.
Oh yeah! Wow, you can really see the stepping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it just looks. You know, I mean, it's fine. You know, it's fine for what it is, and it wasn't a problem, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I definitely learned a lesson from that.
Okay, so let's go on to the next. Should we go Turkish Airlines?
Yeah, let's do Turkish because I'm sure we've probably not got much time left. But yeah, this was the last big commercial I did before I went on to the film. that I did earlier.
So this is a 4-week shoot, do you say?
Yeah, something like that, 3 or 4 weeks. And it was with the regular director that I work with, fantastic director called Thor. And
what else have you done before?
we did, we've done a lot actually. I think there's like a dozen jobs now together, and they're always epic. Like he always
And how did
pushes it.
How did you find? How did you?
Oh, when I started working with Thor, it was like I just felt like all my work just elevated massively. It's like, you know, when sometimes you end up working with a director and they're just so good at their job, you know, but also just work so hard that they just raise everybody else's game, you know. And with him, it's like I love working with him and I love doing these jobs because everything always looks amazing, and it's always because you're always pushing to make everything better. How can we do it better? What are the better locations? Which ones works? Which one, you know? But also very collaborative as well. Like this location, you know.
So talk us through this move here. This is what's this move?
That's a drone actually, and then that's anamorphic. So that's full frame Cooke anamorphics.
So what was on the drone here then?
So I'm not sure what kind of drone that was.
It wasn't a heavy lift drone with a anamorphic lens.
No, it was just.
'Cause it cuts in quite well, doesn't it? So
yeah, it's all. We were going to print this to film, but we.
Where was that shot actually on a boat?
Yeah. So all this
So
is
you're actually on a boat.
On a boat, handheld.
Yeah.
My thing. That's drone.
That's drone.
But I'm supervising that as well. That's again.
And that's was
drone.
Yeah.
Anything like high like that is drone, but everything else is.
And this is just. I guess your Sunpath's being used quite a lot on this shoot.
The what? Sorry.
Your Sunpath was being used quite.
My Sunpath, yeah, exactly.
This is just finding the right light.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, where is it going to be? So we went and recce'd all of these locations.
And that underwater shot, where was that?
That was all of this is in Turkey. That's the south coast of Turkey.
Is that done at the same time as the no?
Yeah. So yeah, it is. So we did that shot.
So that's the same lake.
So that is potentially the same. Yeah, it's the sea actually. So we had a crane that we put a underwater housing on and dumped it.
Yeah.
Whether those are the two,
when they tie up,
they probably frames out, or we might have stitched it with a different shot, you know. But the idea of having, I mean, all these transitions popping up out of the pool and going down and coming up in places, and because the idea is like he's kind of appearing places, and you know.
And it's finding the right time of day for a lot of this, isn't it?
Yeah,
like that's
exactly.
You know, beautiful kind of just.
Yeah, we got there before sunrise, and
then this one here.
Fighting the light on that. So that haze in the back is all put in by us, and it just because it was cold in the cave but warm outside, it pushed all the haze nice and low, so it gave you that lovely effect, you know.
Yeah.
But I lit that cave quite heavy.
And this one here, someone talk me through this one. That was
just a hard silver bounce. That was at the side of a motorway.
Actually. So what lighting package are you? So that's the first one that's got an artificial light in it, is it?
So that is just a silver bounce.
Is that the sun?
So the sun is backlighting him, and I've just got a silver bounce right next to him.
Right.
I remember Thor saying he doesn't usually like hard silver bounces, but it worked really well on this. And I was like, the reason I did it was because it was so soft, and there was haze and all sorts of stuff going on here, and the fire and the smoke, and it was just and the water on the lens because I was also doing a splash bag and that. So like a hard light just felt like it was needed. I mean, I kind of always do that. If it's like soft filtered, then I'll go hard.
Yeah. So you just mix it up.
Yeah,
either soft lenses, hard light, or vice versa. So going back to this, so your lighting package for this whole job, what was it?
Well, all of this stuff would have just been a few battery powered LEDs and neg and whatnot.
And talk us through this scene here. That again.
Yeah,
that's all. Was that all shot at the same time?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean,
so you did the wide, and you jumped in and did the closest.
Yeah, exactly.
That sky.
So that sky's digital, but so the sky is all real, but the stars are not. You could never get that.
Yeah. I was going to say
life, but the darkness.
But that
the fade over to it.
It's all real along.
Yeah. All of that's real. That's a real mountain in the background.
Yeah.
Again, this is just on a beach.
And that's just using the flames and nothing else.
That was just the flames, and then the practicals in the tent, which were NYX, I think, NYX bulbs.
Yeah.
And then this is supposed to be France.
Yeah.
That was in Istanbul.
And is that a location, or
that's in the same house as the pool and the kitchen at the start.
Yeah. And you were lighting. So they
had these shutters on the side, and all I did was just raise the shutters halfway.
Yeah.
I think the shutters actually we had them coming up in the scene, but yeah, I just
So
basically
that's
just
David
draped.
Wright again.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that looks like it's lit to me.
No, it was
Yeah.
available light. I had a light on standby.
It's amazing what you can do when you just have the time to find the right light, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
All of this
absolutely.
is.
It's all very documentary.
Yeah, it's all
Video.
video, travelogue.
No lighting for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really any light.
And you shot this on 2 Alexa LFs.
Yeah, mini LFs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cook. I mean that shot there. You know, again, all available lighting. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that was a bit of a story. We got halfway through down the mountain, and I was like, oh, there's that shot we need to get. You know. And they just kept driving, and it was just me.
Yeah.
I was running back and forth getting
This shot here.
the lenses are in one
Yeah.
car, the cameras in another car. It was a nightmare. But we
And
got it.
why did you need 2 LFs for this job?
Well, because we were doing a lot of stuff. Like for instance, this we had. You know, I was up in the balloon.
Yeah.
I got them to do a shot from in the cave on the floor that I scouted and prepped
Yeah.
and got ready.
So you had a second unit, did you?
No, Thor would just grab the other
Oh,
camera.
right. Okay.
Just shoot
Good on
it.
4, yeah.
It was that kind of thing
Yeah.
where, you know...
This is beautiful, isn't it? The dust.
Yeah, so like when we were doing all
Wow.
that stuff with the dust, I mean, I nearly died because I couldn't breathe by the end of it because it was kicking up so much
Yeah.
dust and horse poo. But like, basically,
That way.
Thor was in one car, like
Yeah.
doing it on a remote head, and I was just handheld in the back of a truck,
Yeah.
you know, just doing my thing as well.
And this shot here?
That was so that the director's in that shot. He's on the right,
That's
or
in
the
that
left, and the producer I think is in the foreground, and it's just me.
and what is that stuff in the air?
That's just fake snow.
Ah, it works really well. Do you know what
Yeah.
it reminds me of? That whole scene reminds me of. I don't know if you ever saw Wrangler, the Jonathan Glazer Wrangler ad
Not
with the
sure.
Wizard of Oz soundtrack.
Might
Split
have
up.
been a
It's brilliant.
might have been a reference.
Yeah,
I mean that's one thing.
I think it to me it feels like a
Yeah,
reference.
we talk a lot about references. And,
Yeah, because that shot to that shot
yeah.
to that shot is
Yeah.
really Jonathan Glazer.
The horses was a very last minute thing.
Yeah,
It's like we were gonna shoot something else, but it couldn't work or something. So then the fixer was like, "Oh, my friend owns a horse farm, and they do lots of like wedding
Yeah.
stuff there. So we're
Yeah.
shooting around these people,
Yeah.
getting wedding photos with these horses and stuff. And then we were like, okay, we're gonna go do half an hour with the 4 horses
Great.
running around.
and just talk us through this scene here, lighting wise,
And so that was lit. So
and that's the opening as well. So let's go back to the opening.
yeah. So the opening we had. In the background, a couple of HMIs, I think
Yeah.
M90s maybe
Yeah.
coming through.
And that little highlight
and
there.
just a little eye light.
Was that a little bit of silver again? Or-
Yeah, probably just a
Yeah.
little silver, or even just a little brick light.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I had a bit of like kind of cooler light just thrown in there as well.
And
That
here,
was it. That was the airport in Istanbul.
so that again,
You have to kind of go with what you've got
available to.
available.
You had something there.
additional,
Yeah.
but only very small units.
Yeah. And there's this shot here I really like. It's that one. Talk me through this
So
one.
this is all completely lit. This is in a
Yeah.
hangar at
Yeah,
the
because I can
airport.
say I like the way you just did that last.
Yeah,
moment.
so like I basically we were. This goes all the way back to the thing about Mike Southern and sitting in his garden when I was
Yeah.
19. You know, you're flying from all these different places and you're flying at sunrise or
Mm.
sunset sometimes, and the light's coming in, and I'm always snapping away photos.
Yeah.
And on this, we were traveling so much, and I was just like, you know what works really well with like say a maxi with some gel, and you dim it a little bit.
Mm.
That always looks quite nice for sunrise, But I was looking around and thinking, well, there's actually only these very small pockets of
Mm.
color that just come through, and then you've got the rest is
Mm.
just very low level ambient and stuff.
Mm.
And so we just did that. We put it on a crane and did
Mm.
the old gag with the light on the crane
Yeah, moving. Yeah.
moving around. And I just had one or two maxis on a crane and just kept it really simple. And yeah, I mean, I've seen a DP recently do one where he had literally 20 moving lights on a rail
Mm.
and huge, massive. I just did it with the great thing about these new planes is you can change all the color of the lights and stuff.
Yeah, right.
So it was just that
Yeah.
really. Oh, and I also had a few like bounce HMIs and stuff.
To give the ambience of the sky.
Just to kind of just
Yeah.
because you can't just go with one light.
Yeah.
It'll never sell kind of thing. So
Yeah. So talk us. Was it the production's 4 weeks away? Were you working really long hours? Was it?
no, not particularly. I mean, some days, yeah. When you're coupling travel in, and then you're kind of having to recce when you turn up at the location and stuff. But
And talk us through this job here, this one.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I can send you some behind the scenes of that.
Oh, that would be great, actually.
So this is Baroma. It's basically an ice cream commercial. A woman lying on a massive reflective.
Where was this shot?
This was shot in Moscow, actually, quite a few years ago.
So she's lying on a reflective.
Yeah, on like kind of a mirrored kind of.
So these
bunch of mirrors. Yeah, so those are all real mirrors. I bought these Panavision filters from the UK, which are like refraction filters.
Yeah.
To use, which gives you this kind of multi-image. They're called multi-image filters, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just had this kind of like huge 60-meter.
And explain this, the rotation of this.
That was just on a techno crane, three axis techno crane.
Yeah.
So all of this is practical.
So what light were you using?
So this is just a sky panel. Just one sky panel.
One sky panel, and it's all.
And then in the reflection, there is light coming from the screen as well, which was like a projector into the biggest screen I think I've ever seen.
So hang on.
So we get all the reflections are a sunrise, and then all I did was just program the sky panel to be a similar color to.
So you have a big projection screen up here.
No, there's nothing behind there.
So hang on. So I'm a bit confused then. So when you say.
So basically, there's she's lying on a mirror.
Yeah.
Or a mirrored.
So that's all practical. That mirrored surface there. Yeah.
And then there's a screen facing the opposite way, maybe a bit of haze and stuff in the air.
Screen like
a projector.
A projector. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a huge projector
projecting the image onto
her, which I'm using to light her.
So hang on. So that's the mirror there. The screen would be there then, wouldn't it? 'Cause you're there. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's lying there.
Yeah.
Camera's here.
Yeah.
And then there's this enormous screen here.
Yeah.
And then I just have a little sky panel.
Yeah.
On the opposite side.
So most of it's done with the work of the screen.
Yeah.
Supplemented by the sky panel.
Yeah, just to give a little kick.
And when you were brought on this job, was it always going to be a screen? And did you get involved?
It was going to be quite complicated.
So that's extended in post, is it?
Yeah. So this area is all there, and then this is all around her is extended, basically.
Right. So that's practical there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So they built this tiled mirrored floor.
So they built this tiled.
Yeah.
Yeah. The director's partner is art director.
Yeah.
And she's brilliant.
Yeah, because that's really, really well done.
Yeah, that was great.
And then
we discussed that at length. What should we have, one big glass one or whatever? And I said break it into small squares.
Yeah,
because it'll give us more
way better.
Yeah,
reflection, and it has that kind of
mottled.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
and then
this was again another projector, back projected.
So behind her, that's a projection.
Yeah, and
again, this is a projection.
All with like
and just sky panels again.
Yeah. Like sky. Oh no, Maxi on the left, sky panel on the right. I think I had a breeze or something similar as well. But they wanted to really kind of mix the colors, and I love this shot. This is all just in camera,
So that's the screen doing its business.
That's the screen.
And you've got your
multi-image filter, and it's all in camera.
And you got any star filters on there as well? Or was that part of the multi-image?
Yeah, star filters.
The star filters as well.
For this stuff,
Yeah,
threw the star filters on. Tried to put a load of crystals in the set.
Yeah.
It was a big old set.
Yeah. You can see that her partner's an art director, can't you? She's
so good. Yeah.
So that's the Maxi is just like here, is it?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And then the sky panel,
maybe gel on. I mean, I do that quite a lot. It just works so well. It just gives a beautiful sunrise feel. I mean, you can kind of go through all. You can go pink, or you can go more ambers and oranges and stuff, or more yellow if you want.
Maxi's in an old tungsten sort of light. Yeah. Do you ever use Dinos when you're outside? Yeah. Because I like for the same.
Dinos, Maxi. I mean, basically the same kind of thing, I guess.
Okay. Very interesting.
But
cool.
Yeah, it was.
That you got a lot of use out of that. What's it called again? The Panavision.
The multi-image filters. Yeah, they're great. I mean, I haven't used them in a long time, actually. I mean, the thing is, when you can get them on and they work well. Yeah, fantastic.
They work really well for this. And that just talk us through what if that's the Maxi again?
That's Dado.
That's a Dado.
That's a Dado.
I was going to say because you got the really beautiful shot.
Yeah. Dado through kind of practical tree.
Yeah.
And then just position.
Yeah.
A bit, but that was a very small.
And what lenses are you using on this?
Master Primes.
Because there's a bit of do you put any Vaseline on the lenses?
Yeah.
That's
That's
Vaseline.
Vaseline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaseline. It's just like the same. You know, I always like to try and find new stuff to play with, and I'm always really interested in trying to find. I mean, like I've done stuff recently where I've put split diopters and put them in a spinning tray and span them to see what would happen and try and catch with the flare. And
good.
I think it's always good. I mean, the one thing I will say is advice you gave me is, you know, you should if you're going to do a music video, do something new and interesting and try and experiment and do something different. You know, I remember you specifically saying, you know, shoot on reversal film, double expose it, or like, you know, push it like 5 stops, or, you know, or whatever, you know, just do something fun and interesting.
Commit to it,
And you know what, like that stuff really, you know, I think that definitely helps you stand out for sure. And you can do that all in music videos, definitely. So yeah, you know, that's a heart.
And this shot here, is it post?
No, I think I actually shot that. Yeah, I think that's not the bit flakes coming off, but we had the ice creams and we shot the pack shots and stuff very quickly at the end. These days, so you get an hour to do a pack shot. Spend days doing them.
Let's talk through the camera movement of this.
Oh yeah.
So
again, that like this was a lot of this was storyboarded, not all of it. I mean, chasing after Mo Salah is not fun, especially at this point, because I was more overweight than I am now. You know, hitting the gym a lot at the moment. But
talk us through what's this.
So this was Steadicam. That's on probably on an AR.
Yeah, I know.
Just to push in on a built set.
Yeah.
So that was a studio set. This was all kind of on location.
That's all handheld, is it?
All handheld, or on like a rickshaw handheld.
Yeah.
Stuff in the car.
And do you do your own? Do you ever bring operators on to?
Not normally, no. I always operate on my own. Like this stuff, like the camera spinning down and coming to him. Yeah. You know, that's just stuff I will come up
with
the ideas on the day. Yeah. So that's just me with a handheld camera going.
Yeah.
That that was on Steadicam with the stairs, but you know, I basically just recce'd that and you know, just pre-lit it.
Use a Steadicam to hang it out. The AR to hang out over the top.
And basically just be like, go and shoot that. Turn all the lights off in there, and you know, expose it nicely for me. I mean, I probably should have got a DP credit for that, but it was fairly simple stuff.
And then this shot here.
So this is all on a studio.
Yeah. Same
studio as the first shot, and just like this was Steadicam, I think.
So what's this background here?
That's all digital.
That's all digital.
Yeah, that's all green screen.
Yeah. So that's just him running towards a green screen, and then it's all taken over in post.
I drew every one
this
frames now.
This is all taken over in post now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think we've got time for one more.
There's actually, if you keep looking, if you go a bit further along on that one, there is a couple of interesting shots.
Okay. So I'd like to do your train one as well.
Oh yeah, gosh, that was a cool shot. I was very proud of that personally, the jumping over the camera thing, because we used a snorkel lens. We used a Fraser lens with an internal rotation.
Which one's this one? This one?
Yeah, keep going. There we go. And then he jumps all in one shot over the camera. Spins around, turns around, and through the door.
So Fraser lens flipped it like that.
So I had the camera do that, but then also I had the focus puller
rotate the lens. Yeah. So I'm with you.
You got it a lot quicker than the grip and the focus. I had to like really convince them.
Yeah, it's very clever. That's very clever.
You know, it's like, if we do this, we do that.
Yeah.
This is where like learning all about those crazy things is quite good. You know, this is a Techno Crane shot, but
Techno Crane
pass hand off from digital to him. You know,
and that's green screen underneath him as well, is it?
No, that's set actually. This is like where I was kind of like, let's get the hardest light we could possibly. In fact, I think Chris Dowling was on this.
Yeah.
So let's get the hardest light we can get.
Light, was it?
Yeah. But it broke.
Yeah.
And like we had to use something else, but it was just, I wanted those really intense shadows.
Yeah.
No
so you know, I just experimented with this recently. Got a 5K without a lens on it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the other one I played around with, because it was Roger Deakins' tip, was using a sky panel.
Oh yeah.
Not sky panel. Sorry, a sky pan.
Okay. Oh yes.
Pan. And just using a black background, because it's just a bulb, basically.
Oh.
But I found that a 5K with the clear glass was the hardest.
Sky pans. I haven't used those in like...
Yeah. On the
big
Volkswagen.
dome.
Yeah.
God, those are going.
Yeah.
You could use a 5K bear into a mirror as well, which I like mirrors.
Yeah, same. Is there anything else to talk about here?
I mean,
is that short? Is that what's that? Is that tracking? No,
That's probably track and dolly. Yeah.
track and dolly, and then you got a little whip there. How's that? Is that with a rig on the?
Yeah, it will be like a
the slider kind of rig.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
All the usual grip stuff. Andy Sauer.
Yeah, Andy Sauer. I love
grip.
Andy Sauer. It's my favourite grip.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah. And the probe blends into the face here.
Yeah, just probe into.
Is that the Laura? Or
yeah, it is.
Yeah, because to get it right in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so, how do you like that? Because the Laura needs a fuckload of light.
That is a good question. I probably had like a S60 like right next to her face.
Yeah, melting her eyelashes probably. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was very close.
You're going from like a normal stop to.
Well, the hardest one in terms of light was that jumping over the camera thing.
Right.
Because
because
that was T16 and all I had was the Steras to light the whole corridor. Right. I was metering it before we went in there.
Yeah.
With my light meter, I was just like, oh god, we're like 2 stops under. And
is this digital?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just to give yourself a heads up.
Yeah. I was just a kind of I was like, oh fuck, like it's T16 or whatever, and I've got to light it with Asteras, naked Asteras. Yeah. I'm like, what's the best I can do?
Yeah.
You know, how far can I push the camera and stuff?
Yeah.
So.
And this one here lights through here?
Yeah, we had HMIs through the window, and then we used the practicals in there, and then just negged everything on the right side. Yeah. That's the town hall.
And then talk us through this sequence.
And that was just like, again, on set, just a blacked out...
like pond liner with a little wooden batten around and then water in there.
Yeah, biggest one you can get, and then just skimming the lights across and getting them off the water.
Off the water, so really low down, and then flagging them so they don't like the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful effect, isn't it? It really works.
It looks great. Yeah.
Was that
the great thing about commercials like this as well is that you just know it's all storyboarded, so you can just
exactly
really
what you're going to
figure it out, and you need to if you're good. If it's going to work, you got to know what you're doing.
This what studio is this one? This is
same studio.
Yeah.
In fact, this is Printworks. You know Printworks?
What? As in the club print.
Yeah. This is all shot in that. one of the rooms in Printworks.
Yeah. They're shut down recently.
Yeah, I think they're going to reopen though.
I think the company's going, but they might have lost that location.
And
that's the old, the classic.
Running up the. Yeah, that's been used in Vodafone before.
Okay, so that's that one. There's one more that I really wanted to talk about, which is this one here. I promise you it's the last one.
Okay.
You got.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because this is a big one.
Yeah, it was a big one. Yeah.
So I'll just play this through 30 seconds and we'll be done.
Okay. So that was on location. That's green screen behind.
Yeah. You use different lenses on this one as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I used Pancros for the old stuff for all of this, and then we went to Cowers for the 80s.
So this is all location and.
Location and studio. So all of the stuff in the train is in a studio. Built 3 different trains for it.
Yeah.
This is location. We just moved the people around. This is for a beer, like Timmy.
No, the director for.
Thor. Yeah. Thor. Yeah. If it's a big one and it's on my list, probably Thor.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all in. So that's in a studio.
So talk through this shot here.
So that's just techno crane through the windows they walk on. We did some other because this is quite a big campaign. We did other commercials for this where we do handoffs to Moffy from the crane kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's a techno crane going through the.
Yeah, so the whole background on all of this is not real, but everything inside the train is real.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are like Cook anamorphics, I think.
Yeah.
Master anamorphic.
Yeah.
So all this beer work we did.
And that shot for real?
Yeah. So that was backlit with a load of light through perspex, and then just classic beer bottle lighting, really, just backlight and just control all of.
And that's Phantom, was it?
And that was what? Sorry,
Phantom.
Yeah. So we were shooting that at 4 a.m, I think, on the last day.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
Yeah.
Doing the really tough beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for talking through all of that.
No problem. Really... Sorry it took so long to go through everything.
Well, that's
it's too much stuff. The problem is, you get two DPs love chatting anyway.
Mm.
So when you get two DPs chatting together,
Mm.
they won't stop.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
just keep talking forever.
yeah.
Literally about.
Yeah.
And if they're talking about cinematography, then forget
Yeah.
about it.
But this is really valuable for our audience to see it, see it sort of, to see it explained. You know,
Yeah,
like the
of
show and
course,
tell bit's
yeah.
really, really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you can talk about.
Yeah,
All that stuff.
yeah.
But
Do you want to mention your film? Or is there anything you wish I'd asked you?
yeah, not really. I mean, like I say, I can wax on
Mm.
and forever. You know, that was always what I think somebody said to me when I was starting out. If you're going to try and get work with DP and you want to like get in with them and stuff as a trainee or a focus or whatever, just go and have a coffee with them and ask them a question and then just sit there for 3 hours.
Right, okay.
Just be like,
That's true of me. So,
Yeah.
That's good
Because
advice.
they'll love it because they can just keep talking forever.
Mm.
And
Hence the podcast, right?
yeah, exactly. but unless you're like someone who actually loves that, like me, and then you. But yeah, but no, I mean, Kindling was great, but I would have loved to have talked about it more because
Well, maybe we can do a part. Why don't we do a part 2?
Yeah, we could talk
Because we've done commercials and music videos mainly in this one.
Well,
So we could
Kindling
do.
was certainly a departure from all of that.
So why don't we do short films and films in the next one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah,
If
'cause
people like it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I mean, there's a lot of information in this for people to really. But yeah, that's a nice division. Now I feel more relaxed because we've done music videos and we've done commercials.
Because there is a lot.
Because the short films, we didn't even get into the short films or
no.
or your feature. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a different kettle of fish.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I mean, as you know, I love chatting to you anyway. We're kind of mates, so I was like, how to say, yeah.
Absolutely.
And part 2 would be great if you could come back for part 2. So yeah, as I say, we'll talk about some of your short films, your feature film, and some of the awards you've won.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
put timer here though.
Yeah. There, yes.